This is the Spoken Podcast. I am your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Spoken Studios with my guys, Trevor Twidwell and Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Episode 133 in full swing, full motion. We are so happy to be here, whether you're YouTubing, you're podcasting, or you're with us here live streaming. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day, your week, your weekend. I hope everything is going good in your life. We are here to talk sports, and we have had an incredible week gearing up for week one of the NFL season. We've actually already had a game in the books, which we're going to talk about very early in this show. But before we start today, I actually want to take some time and send out our well wishes and our hearts and our highest hopes with everybody, because in case you guys forgot, 20 years ago today, our country took a massive hit. Something very tragic happened in New York City when the Twin Towers went down because of a terroristic attack. And I just wanted to send that out for our show. I don't know if Trevor and Eddie have any thoughts on that at all, but more than anything, I just wanted to put that out there. There are so many families, countless families impacted directly by this, and our country has been shaken to its core. I believe we've been strong and we've bounced back from it since, but there has been a definite remembrance of it. I personally can't believe it's already been 20 years since that took place. It does feel like it was forever ago, but at the same time, I still remember it as if it was yesterday, if that makes sense. I remember being a young kid. I actually had the day off of school that day, and I woke up, and I remember our mom bringing us down to their room and showing us. And to be honest with you, I had no idea what the hell was going on, because I had never seen anything like that in my life. And of course, I was only, I think, 10, 11 years old at the time. But it was still something that I think put a lot of life things into perspective for me, because it really opened my eyes to how ugly the world can get and how ugly things can be. But I think that more than anything, things have definitely changed for our country, and I think that we all need to remember the lives that were lost and the people and the sacrifices, the firemen and the policemen and just the normal citizens out there rallying around in New York to see what they did and how we rallied back. It was an incredible thing to see when the New York Giants, their first game back afterwards was here in Kansas City against the Chiefs, and to see the unity, man, because at the end of the day, I mean, politics aside, to see when George Bush went to the I believe it was the Mets game, maybe the Yankees game, it was the Mets game, I think, when George Bush went on the mound and threw that strike. I mean, it was right down the middle. Just to see things like that, man, it's almost like movies couldn't portray it more accurately than what reality did. And 20 years later, man, I want to believe that we've learned from that and that we've gotten stronger because of it. I know there's a lot of division out there, but one thing that I do know for certain is at the end of the day, sports bring us all together. Sports unite us as people, as Americans, and that's why we love sports so much here at the Spoken Podcast. And I just wanted to send that out there and give you guys my thoughts and my well wishes to all the families impacted directly by what took place today 20 years ago. So I want to start today with actually a recap, if you will, when it comes to what took place in the first game of the NFL season, Bucks and Cowboys. I'll be honest with you guys. Trevor and I, Eddie and I, we all talked before that game took place, and Trevor was the only one that really had this game being all that close. I thought that this was going to be a game in which the Buccaneers were going to handle the Cowboys because of the fact that the Buccaneers not only were the better team going into that game as the defending champs, and I think just a better overall team on their roster on paper, but also the fact that the Cowboys were coming into this game a little hobbled, both with players playing and both players with not playing. I mean, you have Zach Martin, one of the best guards in the NFL, out for this game. Dak Prescott coming off of not one but two significant injuries. We had no idea what exactly he was going to bring to the table in this game in particular. And I think it goes without saying that no matter what the end result was in that game, Dak Prescott 100% gained so much credibility and so much respect from the masses, from the viewing audience, from his peers, from coaching staffs, because he came into that game and with so much pressure mounting on him, so much relying on him, so many questions on just his physical abilities, and he had maybe his greatest game of his career. That was an unbelievable performance from Dak Prescott. The only bad play he had negatively really all night long was the interception that CeeDee Lamb should have caught. And it was between four defenders, and Dak Prescott probably couldn't have thrown that ball any better than he did. So if that's the only negative you could take away from Dak's performance, then there really isn't any negatives to take away. And I know that every single show out there is going to talk about Cowboys, and every single show is going to talk about the Buccaneers. So I don't want to sit here and talk about them all night like a Skip Bayless type of show. What I want to do, though, is give my respect to what Dak Prescott did, because quite honestly, I did not expect that. I did not expect him to look that sharp. I did not expect him to look at his best, and he was, and he is. And I think that Dak Prescott is going to have a great season if he can continue to stay healthy with CeeDee Lamb and with Amari Cooper having incredible games like they did. Ezekiel Elliott was a legitimate concern, and that is something that I think the Cowboys are going to have to figure out as the season goes on. But I have to be honest with you guys, I have concerns that Zeke Elliott might be washed at 26 years old. I'm starting to really be concerned if maybe he was a little overrated with the fact that when he came into the league, the Cowboys had the best offensive line in football. Now that they don't, now they have a decent but not great offensive line, I'm concerned that maybe he's not going to be able to get past the last couple seasons that he's had, which have not been all that impressive as opposed to his first couple of seasons. And then you look at the Buccaneers side of things. Look, man, this team's still good. There's no question about that. They're not going to be a bad team at all this season. I have them at 11-6. I'm going to stick with that because of the fact that although they won that game, they should have lost that game, if we're going to be totally honest here. They had 4 turnovers. There was a stat out there, and I'm going to try to pull it up for you guys real quick because it was something that I just simply could not believe with my own eyes, about how lucky Tom Brady was. And we can get to the non-call offensive pass interference in just a second. But here it is from Bobby Belt TX on Twitter. Buccaneers are the first team in NFL history to lose the turnover margin by at least 3, incur 100 penalty yards, allow 450 yards, and still win the game. Yeah. That's never happened before. Non-calls aside, the fact that I believe it was Devin White that threw his helmet to the ground, picked it back up. There was no penalty on that, despite the fact that Tom Brady on that final drive actually had a intentional grounding that was not called. He threw the ball by about 30 yards over the nearest receiver. That is a fundamental offensive pass, or intentional grounding.
Collinsworth, even on the broadcast, was like, "Is intentional grounding?"
Well, Mal, I don't know about that. That was a little weird. Let me slide out of that one. No, and then you have the obvious, and I mean obvious, offensive pass interference that on Chris Godwin. Look, there could have been a flop on that. I don't care. There was contact. You saw him push, literally create separation with his arms, and then he caught the ball. That should have been called because had it been the defender that did that to Chris Godwin, that would have 100% been thrown. And to me, the reason why it's upsetting to me, not that the Bucs won the game, because we all 3 picked the Bucs here. We all 3 expected them to win that game. Me and Eddie expected them to win a little more convincingly. Yeah. But the point is that I thought that was maybe the greatest Thursday night football game I have ever watched. What an opener. What an opener, right? And we get our home crowds back. It's feeling good, and that's how the game's ended. Now, I get that Greg Zuerlein should have made those early field goals, and that did. You can make the case that cost them the game.
That's the number one reason they lost.
But at the same time, when you see a game end on a no call, multiple no calls, it's just frustrating to me because I feel that the referees, although they shouldn't decide a game, and I hate the idea that, well, you can't call it in that moment. You still got to call it in that moment, man. I'm sorry. You have to, because it had been the other way around. You just saw, because look at the last drive that Dak and the Cowboys had. They called that holding call, which was holding on Tyron Smith. That was holding. But they still called it. You can't use the excuse, well, they can't call it that late. They did. So you got to keep it consistent because that was only a minute earlier, literally a minute of game time earlier. So I was frustrated overall by the ending of the game. The Bucs are the better team, but I think overall this game told me more about the Bucs than the Cowboys because I didn't expect the Cowboys to be a great team this year. I think that Dak's going to have an awesome season, but their defense is going to be atrocious again outside of Micah Parsons, who was great on Thursday night. His first NFL game against Tom Brady and the Bucs, played really well. I think that this told me more about the Bucs. Their secondary is terrible. And now they're banged up. They lost 2 cornerbacks last night or Thursday night.
Yeah, Dean might be their number 1 corner now. He's trash.
Dude, I think Dude broke his elbow, if I'm not mistaken.
It looked bad.
He really bad.
He was laying there in pain, and
he definitely broke his arm.
He broke his arm, and so he's going to be out for the rest of the season. They're already bad as a healthy core. Now they're banged up. Their linebacking core is still the best in football to me, but you saw their front their front seven cannot get Dak
I was
pressure.
impressed with that Cowboys O-line.
That was a banged up offensive line. That was a banged up offensive line.
Touched.
Yeah, so I just want to get your guys' thoughts on. To me, I think the Buccaneers are a playoff team. They're going to win their division, but to me, they have some holes and they got some tough teams coming up. They got the Rams, they got the Bears, they got the Dolphins, they got the Bills. They got some good Washington football team. A couple of those games are on the road. I think these teams are going to expose the weaknesses of the Bucs that the Cowboys couldn't, even though it was only a 2-point game down the wire.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, football's back, baby. Nothing tingles the nads more than this feeling, man. Fall season's making its way in. Football, the pigs getting thrown around the field. This is the best time of year. So yeah, I'm already happy as it is just with that being a fact. But yeah, man, that game was incredible. I was super impressed with Dak Prescott. I didn't know what to expect. I'm a fan of his already, but I wasn't, we didn't see him like being mobile as much, but he didn't have to be. That was the most impressive thing of the entire game for me was the Cowboys O-line. Because I was nervous about how that O-line was going to look going against this team, this defensive front, and he was hurried a couple times. I think he was sacked once, but it's because he held the ball literally just way too long on that play, and he was taken down. And then he had a couple scrambles, looked pretty good. The only downfall for the Cowboys that I take away was Zeke. Zeke didn't look very good. I am going to give Zeke the pass there because that is for the last 2 seasons the best rush defense in the league. I don't think they've allowed maybe 300 or 400-yard rushes against them in 2 whole seasons. That team is just they just pin their ears back and refuse to let teams run. So yeah. I'm going to give him a pass on that. I still believe in Zeke and his talent, and he looks like he's in great shape. But he could have had a touchdown. He could have had a touchdown. He just hesitated and he just looked not ready, and he could have made that guy miss and took that for a home run. But he did do that. So, but yeah, I fully believe that this game hinged upon the missed field goals. That's the main reason the Cowboys lost. They should have won that game, but they missed field goals. That last minute drive wouldn't have mattered. They would have been up, by more than the touchdown. So. I don't know, man. Like I think things happen. Human error. The refs did what they did. They called it what they called, and they didn't call what they didn't call. And it was, that's every game. That's every single game, every play. They're not going to get everything. Granted, it's Tom Brady, so he feels a certain sort of way when he gets his way on a lot of things, on blatantly obvious things that should be called that don't get called. But the OPI was definitely an OPI. There's no denying that. I mean, you can say there was momentum there. Of course, there's always momentum. There's 2 guys going, but I mean, the extension of the arm. Did he sell it a little bit? Yeah, probably. Everybody does. Everybody tries to sell it. Like, everybody tries to get the call. I mean, we've seen the great Jalen Ramsey flop his ass off and get calls. So it is what it is, man. Very impressed with both of these teams for the most part. I mean, there was some. I expected a little more from the Bucs. I felt they should have won this game a little more handedly. I wasn't expecting the Cowboys. Definitely more impressed with the Cowboys. I was expecting this to be a closer game just because home openers, opening game, like there's always like the unknown, right? And a lot of teams have tricks up their sleeves, and I was just impressed, man. Dak threw the ball 60+ times. The Bucs knew what they were going to do every single play. They were going to throw the ball, and Dak still went off. Amari still went off. CB Lamb still went off. So. And I was impressed. I mean, there was a lot of fantasy goodness, too, for all my fantasy football players out there. There was a lot of fun fantasy-wise, too. So there's that element of it as well. But, yeah, man, it was a great way to kick off the season. Tom Brady looked good. Antonio Brown looked like Antonio Brown. It was, as a fan of his game, like, it was fun to see him out there getting that going. Gronk is ageless. I mean, the guy was making, big plays, and that connection obviously is still there between him and Brady. So... this year, I mean, that offense might be really, really good this year, but I think that defense might take a step back. I mean, their corners weren't very good. They allowed a lot of points through the air last year as it was. I mean, we saw our Chiefs shred them in a half
with just one starting offensive lineman that was healthy.
Yeah, exactly. So Tyreek Hill had almost 300 yards in one half, receiving yards in one half. I mean, who knows what we're gonna do if we face them again this year? But the Bucs still got a lot more work to do defensively, but. Man, I think the Cowboys got some promise this year. They might be a little better than I expected, so I might have underrated them a little bit, especially if Dak is playing as good and then progresses as the season goes on. I'm just wishing good health for him for sure, but it was a fun game.
Yeah.
It was such a fun game. I was excited. I mean, football is back, so there's that. Everybody's smiling. Everybody's happy. Except those Chiefs fans that are like still salty from the Super Bowl. I'm gonna say it. They're still salty.
No, for sure.
They're like, I'm not watching. I hate both these teams. Like, bro, it's fucking football. Enjoy. It's here.
Yeah.
Just have fun.
We've been waiting 6 months almost. Yeah.
Enjoy.
This is why
have
you need to get into gambling. If you get into gambling, you'll enjoy every game.
Yeah, it's football. I love football. I watch every Thursday game, every Sunday night game. Even though they're not the Chiefs, I still watch. It doesn't matter. But the game was fantastic. It was a great way to open the season up. They went back and forth. They were going back and forth the entire game. Tom Brady played his ass off. I think he had 4 touchdowns that game. he killed it.
Bro, that throw that Godwin dropped, that pass that Godwin dropped, that was an absolute dumb. That was one of the best throws I've seen bring in a while.
Yes,
that was incredible.
He fucking balled out. Dak Prescott, I mean, come on. He was the man of the game on Thursday. He just looked like he never stopped playing football. It looked like he was like mid-season form.
Yeah.
He was just at the beginning. He did kind of start a little bit slow. First drive he was a little bit slow, but it was like, I mean, it's first game of the season. But then right after that, oh my God, he just like wouldn't miss. He just kept hitting his targets. He kept. Oh man, it was just beautiful. I think he went like 42 for 58 or something like that.
Yeah, 58 passing. There's only been, what was it? Is 8? There's 8 since last season. There's only been 8 quarterbacks to throw the ball more than 55 times. Dak Prescott's 3 of them, and he only played 5 games last season. Yeah. So
he's a baller, man.
The Bucks lost pretty good. I mean, their corners. I think it was one of the corners. He broke.
I think it was his elbow.
I think his elbow.
They reported it as an elbow injury.
I think you can see it on the replay how his elbow just popped out. I was like, "Oop, yeah, he's done."
Yeah.
There's that. There was a couple players dealing with cramps. So, I mean, other than that, I think the Bucks defense looked a little bit rusty from the Super Bowl, from what we saw at the Super Bowl. Their front seven just couldn't get to Dak. My hat goes out to all the offensive line for the Cowboys.
Yeah, replacement players.
They were protecting Dak like it was like they're God.
Yeah, right.
They did everything they could in their power to stop the front seven from the Bucks. The Cowboys center who replaced the
Zach Martin.
Zach Martin. He had an amazing game. He was blocking 2 players at once sometimes. He had a great game. Amari Cooper had another fucking phenomenal game. People were wondering if he was gonna, because he likes to drop passes and stuff like that. So last night showed that he's probably maturing a little bit.
And he's injured a lot too.
And he's injured a lot. So hopefully he stays healthy, and hopefully he keeps that consistency throughout the season, which he can't never seem to do. He'll have a good game and then just fall off for like the next 3 or 4 games and then come back. So hopefully this season he can have that consistency that I've never seen from him, that consistency. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, man, my hat goes off to the whole Cowboys team. I was not expecting them to
Cowboys fans should be encouraged.
Yeah, I was not expecting up a fight at all. I thought the Bucks were going to win this game easily. Score 35 points, 31 points easily. But it seemed like they were struggling a little bit. They were slow to start clicking. Their defense wasn't as good as what people had expected. Dak threw over 400 passing yards on Thursday. That's a lot more than I've seen the Bucks give all last season, I think.
Except Patrick when he threw 462.
Yeah, 462. But
yeah, you're right.
But starting off the season with over 400 passing yards, I mean, I'm sure this defense is just gonna fucking rock on from here on out. But here's my problem with the Cowboys, and I know that a lot of fans out there are feeling encouraged about their team. The issue I have is they did force 4 turnovers, but 2 of those turnovers were almost. Look, the trip drill.
Trayvon Diggs should have had that pick.
Yes, but the Leonard Fournette. Yeah. The tip drill he had, that's on him. So it wasn't really that the defense did anything special. And then Tom Brady's second interception, they were just going for the home run basically, and that didn't really. So I'm not trying to take nothing away from the Cowboys. My point is, with 4 turnovers, with a potential 5th, they still give up over 31 points and almost 500 yards of offense to the Buccaneers. And for me, it isn't even just the defense that I think is going to be bad. It's also the fact that this offense still has some glaring problems too. Now, CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper played great, but can we expect Amari Cooper's body to hold up all season long? CeeDee Lamb does have drop concerns. Dak Prescott, he's getting an MRI every 2 weeks throughout the season, so we don't even know if he's going to stay healthy. Also, Zach Martin had his COVID scare. We don't know if he's going to be back even next week, which he probably will be. But even with that, La'el Collins just got suspended for 5 games.
Michael Gallup's probably out for 4 or 5 games.
Michael Gallup's out. Yeah, he's out.
To me, that suspension is kind of odd because I was reading it as like he got suspended because he didn't take a drug test, not because he tested positive.
I think I don't want to
That's
speak.
almost accepting a negative test.
Because when you
Yeah.
refuse
Or
a
a positive
test, a
test.
random test or whatever it is, the league then automatically makes you guilty because
Yeah.
you're refusing. If you're not guilty,
why else would you
Why
avoid
else
it?
would you do
Yeah.
that? So it's like a normal job. But he's not going to be eligible to return until October 18th when they face the New England Patriots. The only saving grace for the Cowboys in this instance is the fact that over the next 4 weeks, they're not facing a playoff team from last season, so they could capitalize on that.
If they played the way they did, yeah.
I'm not banking on them doing that because I didn't see anything from the defense outside of Micah Parsons, who is a rookie linebacker. I didn't really
I think Trayvon Diggs is going to have himself an island here for the next few years. I think Trayvon Diggs is a very good cornerback.
Yeah,
I
maybe,
do.
maybe so. I just, looking at the Cowboys, I want to see them stringing together a few games with that type of effort because they put it out there. Team busted their ass in that Thursday game.
Corner success comes from defensive front and linebacker success.
Yeah.
It starts up front first. So I mean, if they're getting if quarterbacks got all the time in the world to throw the ball, the cornerbacks are not going to find much success, especially with Tom Brady's wisdom out there. So. I think Trayvon Diggs is definitely a really good cornerback in this league. But yeah, their defense isn't. I think they played well. I think they held their own. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of moments where that Cowboys defense is getting burnt this season. So
The good thing for them is they have a light schedule coming up. But again, that game just to me told me more about the Bucs because although the Bucs are going to be a team to respect and fear, they got holes on both sides of the ball. And you even heard Collinsworth and Al Michaels talking about their special teams as to why their kicker loves to kick in the back of the end zone is because they were giving up 34 yards per return.
They were the worst in the league, I think.
Yes, and I think they had like 3 return touchdowns on them last season.
Got a lot of old dudes out there.
They got holes. Yeah, they're the 4th oldest roster in the league. The 4th oldest. And now they got an additional game. For me, man, I don't think this season's going to go the way a lot of people are anticipating for the Bucs because I think the Cowboys exposed some of their holes last night, and I don't see how that's going to change when, again, their secondary is their Achilles heel, and it only got worse in just one game. I mean, they got banged up, and I just don't know how that's going to... You're going to see some really good offenses against that team, and you're going to see some really good defenses because you saw the Cowboys. They couldn't get consistent pressure on Tom Brady. Well, they're going up against some of the better defenses in the league over the next 2 months. Yeah. And I think it's going to be really challenging for the Buccaneers to be able to put up points like they did against the Cowboys and then be able to hold other offenses from scoring back. It's going to be really interesting to see how this team does.
Shootouts. I'll probably expect a lot of shootouts in these Bucs games.
So let's get to the Eddie Hour, actually, because we got to get to the Chiefs and Browns and the breakdown that we're going to have for this game, guys. Week 1 is here. We are literally hours away from this game happening with the Chiefs and Browns. I cannot wait to talk about this one. But before we get to that, we need to get to our guy Eddie in the Eddie Hour. What's in the Eddie Hour this week?
Man, I can't remember if I asked you guys this question about Jake Paul versus Willie reactions. I don't know if I
don't think we did.
Do you remember?
No, we did not waste our time with that one. Let's do it now. Let's do it now.
Let's waste a couple minutes in here.
Yeah.
Lance Trevor, let me hear your reactions on Jake Paul Willie fight.
I saw a 39-year-old former UFC fighter knock Jake Paul into the ropes and not capitalize on it. It was very weird for me because I don't want to be Mr. Conspiracy Theorist guy, but I saw Woodley put him in those ropes, and I remember old Woodley when he would do that to a guy, when he'd knock him into the cage, he didn't hesitate. He went for the kill. He didn't go for the kill in that fight one time. And I have to think that there was some sort of unwritten agreement between the two. Hey, we can throw hands legit, but don't knock me out, because I think that was legitimate what was going on because of the fact that also you saw Jake Paul immediately retire afterwards and then 26 hours later unretire. It's all a show. It's a charade. It was entertaining. I will give it that, which is I understand that's the core reason for these fights is just for entertainment purposes. But Jake Paul is trying to take himself as a legitimate boxer, trying to take himself seriously as a legitimate boxer. To me, that didn't help his case at all, because I think that Woodley, if he really wanted to, would have ended Jake Paul in that fight. You saw how gassed Jake Paul was after the 3rd round. He was gassed. He found a second wind, but Tyron Woodley, you could tell, was ready to fight. And I just have this strong indication that if Woodley really wanted to go in there and tear Jake Paul's head off, he would have done it. He caught him with that right, dude, put it right on top of his dome and knocked him into those ropes. If it wouldn't have been for those ropes, Jake Paul gets knocked down. So For me, I don't know if I believe the authenticity of that fight. I think that was more of a dance with gloves, kind of like a McGregor-Mayweather, where they both made a ton of money, and they got out of it, and they were successful. We were all entertained, yada, yada, yada. I'm just glad I didn't pay for it, because I would have felt robbed of $60 to $80, whatever the fuck that would have cost me. I'm just glad we just streamed it, and don't cuff me, cops, but that's what we did. And I just overall was entertained, but I just feel like, okay, we know what that was all about. We all understand what this is all about. Let's see who Jake Paul fights next time, who's not a boxer.
Yeah, it was pretty telling that Jake Paul immediately was talking about retirement. Before that fight, being the guy that also had the quote talking about and putting himself in the same boat as Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali. And then talks about retirement. And then actually does retire. And then in the same breath, Tyron Woodley challenges him to a rematch, and then he accepts. And then he retires after the match is over and the TVs are off. He retires again and then comes out of retirement like 2 days after that. I don't know. I don't know if he's actually taking this seriously. I feel like not that he's trolling, but this is definitely becoming more of a gimmick than anything. I do respect his athleticism. I think he's a true athlete. He obviously has skill at boxing. I don't think his goal is ever to be a legitimate boxer, especially if he's going to retire just like that. If you want to say you're going to take a break, whatever, that's fine. But he, obviously threw the word retirement out there, did retire, quote unquote. I just can't take this seriously with this guy. This is definitely becoming a gimmick. I 100% agree with you, Lance. I think Tyron Woodley at any moment could have ended him. There's just a massive difference in skill there and experience and power. And Tyron Woodley is an all-time champ, a legend in UFC history. This guy has all-time power in UFC. He was a knockout artist. This is not. He was barely. Yeah, there was a lot of holding back from his end. Lance was watching it with me. I was getting very frustrated. Dude, literally at any time, Tyron can take this dude out. We see it. It's there. He had him. He almost had him out of the ring when he hit him with that right and had him almost falling through the ropes. He could have brought another right hook over and just completely put the lights out, but. It is what it is. He kind of stood there and let him come back and bounce back and continued the fight and let the round end. Yeah, it definitely felt gimmicky, and I know Tyron wanted to get that rematch. He was going to make Tyron get that tattoo, says I love Jake Paul on his leg or whatever, and he accepted it, and then we've heard nothing about that. So I don't know. There's a lot of fuckery going on, to be honest, but it was entertaining for the most part. I mean, I think Jake Paul is a good entertainer. I think he's a good marketer. The guy obviously knows what he's doing as far as entertainment goes and getting eyeballs on him. This is what these guys do. So they're very charismatic. The retirement thing is just I feel like it's just a joke. It's just, yeah.
People say that this helps boxing. I don't think it does because of the
I
fact...
think a lot of boxing fans are upset about it.
Yeah, because I don't think it really represents boxing. I think they're using boxing as a conduit of entertainment, if that makes sense. I don't really feel like
it's a subset of
this isn't viewed
boxing
as a boxing match.
Yeah.
It's viewed as... Because it's it's like six guys saying, hey... We're going to play a 3-on-3 basketball game.
It's like celebrity deathmatch.
Celebrities playing 3-on-3
Yeah.
and to face each other. No one's going to sit here and say, oh, that reflects the NBA. Mm-hmm. I don't think that would reflect it. I just think they're using that sport as a conduit for entertainment. And I think that's what they did in this match. And I don't think this reflects Canelo and all the great boxers and boxing as an entity. Yeah. I think it separates itself.
Yeah, but you're saying it separates itself, but don't you think this has brought in light to boxing as a whole?
I think it brings light to Jake Paul.
I would say yes if he had the full support of a lot of pro boxers that were.
Or I don't know if he fought an actual boxer. If he fought an actual boxer, this would bring light.
He's not bringing any light to any maybe an up and coming boxer.
Yeah, Eddie, you know boxing better than I do. You know boxing better than I do. Name a random boxer that Jake Paul could fight right now. And if he fought that guy, he may not bring the same cachet as a Tyron Woodley or any of these other guys that Jake Paul's, or Nate Robinson even, who has some clout in the interest in the world. If he fought an actual boxer, just an average guy that's current, that's 28, 29, 30 years old, right? That would bring attention to boxing. You know why? Because a legit boxer would be boxing.
Shit, bring De La Hoya back and just,
That's what I'm saying.
It doesn't
let the Golden Boy would knock his ass.
He was gonna fight tomorrow. He was gonna fight tomorrow, but he caught COVID, so he's.
Really?
Yeah, he's in the hospital.
I knew he was coming back to fight. I didn't know when.
He's in the hospital.
Oh wow.
With COVID. Yeah. So I don't know if he's out of the hospital, but I know
He's put on his lucky fishnets.
I know last week he posted on social media that he was in the hospital and
Oh, damn.
he was pretty bad. He was
Oh
pretty bad
shit,
shape.
that's my guy, man. I love.
He's
boxing.
almost 50, I think, too,
Yeah,
right?
he said he couldn't breathe and all that shit. And,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
it
Do we
was-
know if he was vaccinated?
Yeah,
or?
he's vaccinated.
Okay,
He
okay.
posted on that social
Man,
media.
imagine
He's
if he
fully
wasn't.
vaccinated.
Yeah.
No, that's my thought on it, Eddie. I mean, you know boxing better than I do, but I think this brought more attention to Jake Paul as opposed to boxing.
I think this does bring a little bit of light to boxing because it just like baseball, it was a dying sport, and I think this has brought out light to boxing because a lot of boxers are like, man, fuck this guy, let me beat his ass, and a lot more people are interested in boxing. It's like, I'm gonna go box just because
It's a gimmick.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Like,
if Jake Paul can fight, I want to fight too. So there's a lot more people interested and invested into the sport, the actual sport that it is boxing.
That's
So
interesting.
I do see Jake Paul helping the boxing sport grow. Maybe you guys don't see it because you guys see it more as an entertainment.
I mean, that's
than
what it
anything.
is at its core.
Yeah,
but yeah.
but I do see Jake Paul helping the sport of boxing grow.
So do you think he's going to fight an actual boxer then?
I can see him trying to fight a actual boxer. Maybe not a well-known boxer, but I do think he might fight because he does train with boxers,
Yeah.
like with real box. He does have spares with boxers, so I do see maybe one of the guys in his gym maybe kind of like, hey, let's make this happen or something like that, and I can see them probably.
I know
doing
his opponents
something.
aren't hating that bag though. I know
No.
Tyron Woodley and Askren. These guys have made the most money they've ever made in a fight for those fights.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. That's what I'm saying. I think if Jake Paul is really serious about helping boxing and more than just helping himself, which he clearly
I believe
did.
he does love boxing. He's a
Then
good boxer.
Then start fighting real boxers because I
Yeah.
think no matter who he fights, people are going to pay attention. I think they really will. I think that Tyron Woodley helps. I think that Ben Askren and Nate Robinson, they help. But Jake Paul is already such a big star. The Paul brothers, for whatever reason, are such big stars and big draws that I think if even if you fought Joe Schmidt, I think they would attract people.
So the deal that they had going on was if Tommy Fury won that fight on that same night, which was in the earlier cards, he was the next opponent of
Yeah, I
Jake
heard
Paul.
that too.
Which I can see that as a reality happening. So that can be a good fight because I
would pick Tommy.
I can say they're in the same around the same weight. I would say they're pretty big, big bulky guys. I can see that happening. They do have hate for each other. They do talk shit on each other. But then you have Tyson Fury respecting Jake Paul. So so I don't know. But I do see him fighting an actual boxer. I think this fight against Woodley kind of helped his case in wanting to fight a real boxer. Because he owned Woodley throughout the fight, except for like 2-3 rounds.
He definitely landed
That's
more.
3 of the 8
I-
rounds, though.
And he had more
Significant
Significant
strikes.
strikes. Yes,
he
he
has
did,
more
he did.
significant strikes.
Which
There's-
kind of
there's
falls
that
more to
one-
my
there-
conspiracy.
There was that one point where he hit Woodley, and Woodley just kind of like fell into his chest and kind of hugged him. So at that point, I thought Woodley was out because he closed his eyes because when he went and hugged Jake Paul after that one strike. So I do think Jake Paul could have knocked Woodley out as well. But obviously we didn't see it.
We'll see what Jake comes up with next.
But yeah, I'm excited. I'm a Jake Paul fan.
I enjoy
so
watching him. Yeah, I don't.
I'll watch his next. I won't buy it, but I'll watch his next fight. All right, man. After last night last week, and then after last night, Cowboy Twitter was going off about Amari Cooper, saying that he was a top 5 wide receiver in this league. Now I want to ask you that question: do you guys think he is a top 5 wide receiver in this league?
No. No, not even in talent. Like, talent-wise, he's top 10. He's not even a top 10 receiver right now because of the fact he hasn't done enough. I mean, he's missed a lot of games in his career. I don't know the exact numbers. I can look it up. But Amari Cooper's been hurt a lot in his career. He's not been available for a lot of games. And the fact that also in 33 games with Dak Prescott, he put up better numbers than the previous 50 he put up with Derek Carr.
He's definitely in a better spot.
He's
now.
in a better spot now, but he's what, 27 years old now? 26, 27 years old. This is time for Amari Cooper to finally become what he was supposed to be. He was a top, 5 pick in that draft out of Alabama.
Yep.
Like, he was a top 5 pick. This dude needs to finally put a career together. I'm not going to give him praise for one humongous game because he had a great game against the Buccaneers.
He has those.
He has the skill set to be a top 5 wide receiver. He does. If he's at his best, he's a guy that's getting 1,600 yards and 12 touchdowns. He's that good as an individual, but he hasn't done it yet. He hasn't shown me that yet, so I'm not going to give him that credit yet. That is putting the cart way ahead of the horse. He needs to actually put in that work before I can give him that type of credit.
Yeah, he's definitely not a top 5. I mean, I wouldn't even say he's top 10 yet. Talent-wise, maybe. I think he's definitely a top 10 route runner.
Yes.
His route running ability is insane. He's up there with the Keenan Allens and the Devontae Adams and Hopkins. He's up there with those guys' route running ability. Like his ability to stop on a dime and cut left, cut right, fake left, fake right. He's incredible at his route running. But when he's been the guy, I mean, having CeeDee Lamb there helps him a whole lot because CeeDee Lamb is becoming a guy that one of the best guys I've seen in a long time, being as young as he is, coming into the league and being able to create separation on his route. And that's another guy that's upcoming as well. I think it might be even more talented than Amari Cooper in my mind. But if you look at his first few seasons with the Raiders, he had one of the worst catch rates in the league. He was dropping way too many passes. He led the league for like 2 straight years, almost 3 straight years, and drops. And Derek Carr throws a good football. It's not like Derek Carr throws a wobbly ball that's hard to catch. Derek Carr throws a good football. Amari Cooper was just having a lot of trouble with getting, as good as a route runner he is, he was having a lot of trouble creating separation for most of his career. But like I said, I think the situation that he's in now, having a quarterback that's good at extending plays, and now has a true number 2 receiver to play alongside with him to help kind of help the defense focus on another guy instead of just him. So it does free up time, more opportunities for Cooper. So I think more opportunities going to come with more success. Obviously, that's how this league works. Just like Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill both benefit off them being so great, the defenses have to worry about both of them. And so you can't just double one of them, and you have to pick which one you want to stop. So now that CeeDee Lamb is here, I think that's how defense are going to have to kind of approach them because these guys are both so talented, so fast, such good route runners. And then you got Dak throwing the ball. It's a good offense. So he's part of this. Is the best offense he's ever been a part of. So if he has a huge year this year, has a career year this year, I won't be surprised. But, I mean, the guy's going to put up numbers. He's had good numbers most of his career, but he is not a top 5. Like that, the hype train for that needs to chill. It's week 1 against one of the worst secondaries in the league. That secondary is terrible, and one of their best corners went down.
Real quick, I'm going to name you guys a few wide receivers. You tell me if you just yes or no. You don't have to go into it.
Yeah.
Who you think, Amari Cooper or them? Say them or Amari Cooper. Devontae Adams. DeAndre Hopkins. Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Allen Robinson. Julio Jones. A.J. Brown. Michael Thomas. Stephon Diggs.
I was about to say Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson.
I think I'll take Amari Cooper over Adam Thielen.
Okay, so there's one.
Right now, yes.
So let's give him one. That was number 9.
But you didn't say Justin Jefferson yet.
I just said Justin Jefferson.
I'm taking Justin Jefferson.
Calvin Ridley.
Yes, Calvin Ridley.
Okay. Mike Evans.
That's a toss-up for me.
Oh, man, I'd take Mike Evans.
I think he's more of a complete receiver. I think Mike Evans is kind of an overglorified tight end in my mind, but okay.
For me, real quick, I think Amari Cooper is in the same category as a Chris Godwin. I think he's right there in that same category. Gives you 1,000 to 1,100 yards and 5 to 7 touchdowns.
I would personally,
receiver.
If I'm building a team, I'm taking Amari Cooper over Mike Evans.
Fair enough.
He's in that range, though.
This could be that year, man, where Amari Cooper has a 1,600 yards, 1,500 yard season with 11, 12 touchdowns. He does that, I'm going to give him top 10 credence.
Yeah.
But he's not there yet, man.
I'm
taking
like Keenan.
12 to 14.
He's not better than Keenan Allen either. You didn't even mention Keenan Allen.
12 to 14, I would
Keenan
put
Allen's
him.
better than Amari
12
Cooper.
to 14 right now, but he's on that cusp.
Yeah.
He has a baller season, an all-pro year this year, stays and plays all 16, 17 games.
Yeah.
He's top 10 for me, but top 5, we're talking he's got to have like 3 or 4 seasons of 12, 1,300 yards, double-digit touchdowns, playing 15 to 17 games. Until he does that, he's coming off 2 really good seasons.
He's in his best spot possible right now, for sure. He could have that year this year.
He has back-to-back 1,100-yard seasons. That's good.
Yeah.
That's not great. That's good. Adam Thielen's putting up numbers like that.
Right.
And Trevor just said he would take Amari Cooper over
and Adam Thielen's
Thielen,
always been better in the red zone. Adam Thielen's a touchdown fiend.
And he's only like 6 foot tall.
But I think Adam Thielen's kind of regressed. He started regressing a little bit last year. Justin Jefferson's the new number 1 over there anyway, so that guy's a freak.
Yeah, he's a fucking...
Yeah.
All right, next question. So I believe a friend of the show, Kent Swanson, posted this on his account. I could be wrong, but I believe that was I read it right, where he said that Salvador Perez, the best catcher in Missouri sports history. I believe he tweeted that out. And a lot of people were upset at good old Kent.
Triggered.
Because I guess down I-70, there's another catcher by the name of Yadier Molina. Now, my question to you guys is, between Salvador Perez and Yadier Molina, who do you think is the best player and why?
That's tough, but yeah.
No, it's really not.
Yeah.
Yadier Molina is the better player.
Yeah.
It's not that I think that Salvi. See, I almost hate conversations like this because first of all, let me say Kent was trolling. I know Kent. I've known Kent for years. He was trolling, and that's what I love about
He's
Kent.
probably
is
giggling when he sent that tweet.
He gets people, man. This is why I love my dude Kent because he gets people going. I do believe that if Salvador Perez was playing for like the Padres or the Mets or the Brewers, that people in this region would agree with Kent, even though Kent was, I disagree with Kent, even though Kent was trolling. I think that Salvador Perez is probably a better hitter at this point than Yadier was in his prime.
Yeah.
I think that goes without say because he's in the 40 home run range. Yadi never came close to. I think the most Yadi ever hit was like 23 in a season, which is really good for a catcher, by the way.
Yeah.
Yadier Molina has put up almost 20 years of Gold Glove baseball.
His defense is insane.
You can make the case Yadier Molina is the greatest catcher of our generation.
For sure.
Salvi, as great as he has been over his career defensively, he's just now really coming into his own as an offensive player. Yadier Molina has always been very steady offensively and has been the best at defense in his career for 15 years. Now he's going into his year 20 next season, which is going to be his final season with the Cardinals. I'm going to have to give I hate to do that because I know a lot of Royals fans are watching right now, but I have to keep it real, man. Salvador Perez hasn't put up the catalog that Yadi has to this
Yadi's
point.
got 2 championships, right?
Something like that. Yeah, and he was a catalyst to those. Yes.
I think
He was a
it's 2.
catalyst to those championship teams. And like I said, every single year you could pencil Yadi in for batting 265 to 275, 18 to 20 home runs, 75-ish RBIs, and a Gold Glove player for a decade and a half.
Yeah.
Like, as great as Salvi is, and I love Salvador Perez, the second greatest Royal of all time, non-pitcher.
For sure.
Second greatest player of all time behind only George Brett. You guys know I love my dude Salvi. He hasn't had the career that Yadi has now. I will say this, because Salvi's only in his early 30s, he has another 6 seasons of great baseball like this, where he's not hitting 40 homers a year, but if he hits 25-ish homers a year for the next 6 seasons,
He can always become a DH too.
Right, but I think Salvi's going to stick around for a while at catcher. And if he gets like 4 or 5 more Gold Gloves and ends up with like 12, 13 Gold Gloves, we got ourselves a conversation. But in the meantime, you can't, because he's played half the time that Yadi has. Literally, he's played 10 seasons. Yadi's played 19. You just can't compare it yet. But I think Salvi's got a chance. He really does, because he's going to have 10-plus Gold Gloves. He's going to have 10-plus Gold Gloves by the time he's done. Yeah. And I don't think he's done anytime soon. I think he's got another 3 or 4 really good seasons left in him.
Yeah, I'm not going to disrespect Yadi like that. That's a Hall of Famer, and it's hard enough for catchers to make the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. So for him to have a resume and the longevity he's had in his career, it's unmatched. It really is. It's damn near unmatched at that position. And the success he's had with the and being a big part of the success of that St. Louis franchise. And they've had their fair share. They're almost always a team that's been in the run in the the last few years, not really as much, but like the Pujols era and all that. Like that was as much as we hated them as Royals fans. We don't like the Cardinals at all. But those were some great teams, man. And they were always in the mix and contenders. And he was a big part of that. So yeah, I mean, I think Salvi has the trajectory. If he, like Lance said, if he continues in the next 5-6 seasons and has the year, or even a similar year to what he's having right now, and he can continually hits the way he's hitting right now, he's definitely on pace, man, to make a great comparable resume, and he's on his way to the Hall of Fame as well. And I would love to see him, maybe overlap Yadi, but Yadi's had, like I said, a resume, man, that's lengthy, and the Gold Gloves are definitely probably the thing that puts him over the top for sure. His defense is damn near unmatched at that position. So I'm gonna go with Yadi, but a very, very close second, Salvi. Absolutely.
Now, just to put it into context, because of the fact that here's the crazy thing. Salvador Perez has actually already hit more home runs than Yadi has for his career.
He's definitely a better hitter.
He has 194 home runs. Now, this season obviously elevated that significantly with his 42 home runs.
Yeah.
He's got a little over 300 less RBI, so he's going to pass Yadi in offensive numbers. The difference is, and I have to look this up as well because of the fact that defense is what we all know. They predicate.
Yeah, he's a catcher.
Catchers off of.
Yeah.
Now let's look up the amount of does have a Gold Glove. Yes. How many Gold Gloves does he have? So he has 5 Gold Gloves right now. Yadi or Salvador Perez does. Now, if we go to Yadier Molina, and see how many Gold Gloves he's got. We're talking about I'm gonna go ahead and before I even look, I bet he has at least 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say 10, 11.
Yadier Molina, let's see how many Gold Gloves. 18 years. What do they consider? 9. He has 9 Gold Gloves. So Salvi is 4 away.
Yeah.
So right as it stands, I'm still giving the edge to Yadi, just because of duration, because of success, and because of the numbers are there, guys. He still has more Gold
Significantly
Gloves.
more home runs too, which for Salvi is.
Salvi's already passed him on 24 more home runs. If he doubles him in
And how many less seasons? Like 6 less seasons?
7 less seasons.
7. That's impressive.
I'm just saying, man. Salvador is coming for that.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
coming for it. So I can say by career's end, Salvi could be the best catcher, and that's going to say something.
Yeah.
Because like I said, Yadi is widely considered the greatest catcher of his generation. Salvi passes him in all these numbers and Gold Gloves and shit. I'm giving it to Salvi. So
sure.
I'm going to say right now,
I would gladly do that.
Yeah, Yadi now, but Salvi later.
Fuck the Cardinals, man.
Don't tell our guy Corey Jones that, our artist chief,
I
man.
don't give a shit. I would never like the Cardinals, man.
Goddamn. All right, man. We're sticking with baseball. So Shohei Ohtani has officially hit for number 44 this season. We all
Pitcher.
know he's a clear MVP.
Yeah.
My question to you guys is, should the Angels kind of take him away from that pitching role and kind of put him in the what was it? The I guess you can say the outfield or infield or whatever the
Or
fuck.
DH, something like that.
Yeah. Like, do you think that the Angels should kind of like start converting him into like a defensive player?
No, not yet. Because of the fact that Shohei is still a top tier pitcher right now. The dude's got a below 3 ERA. Last time I checked, Shohei Ohtani is, I think, Babe Ruth only better. And I'm being dead serious. What he's done, I'm being dead serious, guys. He's better than what Babe Ruth was. He's doing this in an era that is so much more difficult than what Babe Ruth was doing. Babe Ruth was playing against mailmen and dudes that were not half the athletes they are today, and guys that are pitching 100 miles an hour, and that's an average. Like, he's going against much better talent than Babe Ruth did. And for Shohei to do what he's doing, winning an MVP as a pitcher and hitter, that is something we've never seen in 100 years. Shohei is the most unique, versatile player in Major League history already. And so I don't think the Angels should clip his wings yet. Let this angel fly, if you know what I mean. Let him do what he's doing until you see that pitching and or hitting is taken away from one or the other.
Yeah.
Until that happens, there is no reason in the world why the Angels should do that. Because also, from a business perspective, this helps the Angels, a team that is always hurting. Trevor, you and I have a lot of friends in the Anaheim area. There is that is a rough market for a baseball team, for any team.
The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, is that what they're called now?
Yeah, but they're still in Anaheim for some. That's not Los Angeles, but
Yeah.
no, that team struggles. That team struggles to get people in the stands, and he is the attractive piece. They've already had like 7 bobblehead nights for Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
7 in one season. That's ridiculous. You do that for an entire career. So you don't take away from what he's great at, and that is both hitting and pitching. Why would you do that? He's in his 20s until, like I said, until he loses velocity in his fastball, misses some junk in his junk ball pitches. Don't take that away from him. Let him be great as much as he is great.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a more superstitious fan base in sports than baseball fans. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. Angels fans would be the first to tell you if you ask any of them, don't change anything. The dude's doing what he's doing. Don't change anything. Don't throw a wrench into these gears. Don't mess any of this up. It's all about rhythm and superstition for these guys. And players themselves are extremely superstitious. Baseball players are the most superstitious athletes in the world. These guys have that's why there's so much lure around baseball. So yeah, I don't think you would want to change anything up. If his pitching starts to go, maybe consider DH or putting him in, playing some kind of defensive role in the outfield. He's definitely a great athlete. But for him, for his teammates, for the fans over there, I'm 100%. I believe they would tell you they don't want to change anything up because the way he's playing right now, just don't screw anything up. Don't change it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I'm so happy for that guy, man. Coming from where he came from, being in this American pastime game, being the ethnicity that he is, and being the position that he's at, doing something that's very unprecedented. If it's not broke, man, don't fix it. Let this guy finish out this incredible season, and don't change anything up, man.
If you don't believe he's having a great season, this is the guy that he's overshadowing this season. And I'm talking about Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's having
beast, bro.
a fantastic season. He's having a great
Talk about
season.
genetics.
He has
This guy.
42 home runs, 166 hits with a batting average of 318.
God.
Dude's
That's
incredible.
it. That is his- that is his-
Shohei Ohtani is
his pops.
overshadowing
Yeah,
this guy.
That is literally okay. I don't know if anybody. I don't know you guys, Trevor. I know you watched Vladimir Guerrero Sr. I don't know if you ever watched him back in the day with the Angels.
One of the best swings of all time,
He played with the
dude.
Expos and Angels, and Vladimir Guerrero. That sounds like his dad's numbers every single year.
So consistent.
Batting between 315 to 330, 35 to 45 home runs, 112 to 130 RBIs.
MLB
batting,
the show. MLB the show, man. Hope that dude is
Every single year, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is doing the exact same his father did, and his father won MVP in 2004, 2005. Yeah, he won. Yeah, in one of those seasons, he won MVP with those exact same numbers. So literally, if you just remove Shohei Ohtani,
Yeah.
he's winning MVP,
he's winning, yeah.
and it might be running away. No disrespect to Salvador Perez, but what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is doing is MVP worthy in any other
He'll
year.
do it again too. That guy's
Any other year, even this year, it's just like you said. Shohei Ohtani's just that great because why? He adds another whole nother spectrum to his game, which is pitching at a high level. It's not like he's out there being a relief pitcher, every 5-6 games. He's a starting pitcher.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
You're right, Eddie.
It's
If you don't
unprecedented.
see the greatness, I don't know. I can't help you because this is one of the greatest things we've ever seen in sports.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever seen that.
I just wish he was on a better team. Just like I've said about Mike Trout, ironically, is if he was on a better team, we would care more about Mike Trout.
He's even overshadowing Mike Trout.
And don't give me the personality thing.
Yeah.
Don't give me exactly. Don't give me the personality thing about Mike Trout or any of these other guys because Derek Jeter was the most maligned
Right.
superstar ever. Never said anything exciting. Never said anything controversial. Never really did anything controversial. But he was the biggest star in baseball for 12, 13 years.
Yeah.
Why? Because he played with the Yankees. If you put Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani with the Yankees or Phillies or Red Sox or any of those teams that people actually give a shit about, the Dodgers, you're talking about global superstars. But because these guys are playing for a market like Anaheim, no one gives a fuck. And I mean that respectfully because these guys deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like who watches Anaheim? Like,
Not me.
Who wants to go to
Dude,
Anaheim?
I've watched one Angels game this year. and
Everybody
it's 'cause it was
shut
on
the Angels
ESPN.
games on.
I've watched one Angels game all year long, dude.
Yeah.
All right, man. Another baseball question. Ooh.
I like it, Eddie.
Who is your favorite team heading into the playoffs?
How can you not say the Dodgers? It's the Dodgers, man. Like this team is by
juggernaut
far the
force.
most talented team in the MLB, and despite having humongous distractions of Trevor Bauer, they just stay steady. If you look, I don't know how you pick against them this season. I really don't, man. I had I forgot who I picked to win the World Series. I have to look it up again, but just the acquisition of Max Scherzer alone, let alone the Trey Turner they also added to the equation. I just don't see how they don't win. It's theirs to lose. I really think they're going to repeat as World Series champs.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite as far as who I think winning it and going into the I mean, it's the juggernaut, man. It's the Dodgers. I had them winning again this year.
Now the Rays are great. Let's put this into
There's
context.
definitely competition. I'm not gonna act like it's a wash. Just why even watch?
You want to talk about another market? You want to say another bad
Yeah,
market?
yeah.
All right. The Rays, real quick, are 40 games over 500.
It's Tampa Bay.
They're averaging 8,000 fans a home game. That's worse than the Royals.
I feel like Tampa Bay, the Rays have always had attendance problems though. I mean, that's Florida sports.
They just
though.
don't care about. They don't care about
Yeah,
sports.
it's
down
a
there.
bad market.
They just don't.
But Trevor Lawrence is gonna change all that. But yeah, man, it's the Dodgers for me. It's not even I'm not gonna have to give that much thought.
And the crazy thing is that they might go in as a wild card into this playoffs. That is because nobody's paying attention to them Giants.
The thing about the Giants, I like their pitching, and Crawford has had an incredible offensive season. Is it sustainable though? And if they played the Dodgers in a series, are we really picking the Giants in that series? I'm not. I'm not picking them in that series because you have Max Scherzer leading with Clayton Kershaw, Trey Turner, and
Clayton Kershaw has been hurt.
He has been. I just think by playoff time, which is what, 3 weeks? Not even 3 weeks from now. Yeah, about 3 weeks.
At the end of September, I think.
I think he'll be ready. I think he'll be ready to go. And if Clayton and Max Scherzer are heading that pitching staff, that rotation, no one's beating that team.
Yeah.
No one. Those are the two best pitchers in the world, outside of maybe a couple names like Jacob deGrom, who can't stay healthy this season. I just don't know how you beat that team. I'm just being honest. Wild card or not, it doesn't matter. In baseball, if you have the pitching, it doesn't matter if you're a wild card. It doesn't matter if you have the 1 seed. You're going to usually win the World Series when you have top tier pitching. Not to mention Mookie Betts and Trey Turner, like I said, and all these other fucking awesome hitters they have.
Overwhelming, man.
It's overwhelming.
Last question. Why do you think the Patriots really cut Cam Newton?
Okay, so I watched the interview he had with his father, which I actually really enjoyed. I don't know if you guys watched it on YouTube or not. It's a pretty decently long video. I watched the important the segment of it where they talk about that exact reason. And Cam Newton talked about how he felt that is because his presence and his aura was overwhelming, and he started off by saying, I was in the way. He's saying that I was going to keep from Mac Jones developing into what they wanted him to become. My presence being there even as a backup would have been too much because Mac Jones would have been looking behind him, around behind his shoulder to see Cam Newton. Cam Newton was 100% correct. I know that rubbed people wrong, and I know that a lot of people took that arrogantly because Cam is an arrogant guy. But that doesn't mean that what he said wasn't true. Even if he was lying about it, even if he was full of shit and had other reasons as to why he truly believes he was cut, what he said in that video, the 2-minute video he had with his dad, was 100% accurate. Look, Mac Jones was a 15th overall pick, replacing Tom Brady, not Cam Newton. He's replacing Tom Brady. So the pressure there is already in itself enough.
Cam was a stopgap.
Cam was a stopgap, and he knew that from day one. And so Cam Newton knew, okay, look, at best, I'm going to start a few games this year, and if I struggle, they're going to turn to Mac Jones anyway. And with me being a former MVP, a dominant quarterback for years over my career, it's going to be too much for me to be a backup here. And plus, I know that Cam Newton's pride was going to get in the way for himself, being a backup quarterback, being a former MVP who's only in his early 30s. That's going to be something that was just it wasn't going to help the Patriots. So he wasn't wrong in any regard. I think it was the approach, the fact that he had a hat on that his hair was popping through. We can't tell if he cut it out himself or bought a hat like that. Like there's a lot of things to Cam Newton that I think rubs people the wrong way. But for me, I think he's just an authentic and eccentric person. To me, he reminds me a lot of Johnny Depp. I know that sounds funny, but just a really odd dude that people just don't really understand.
I know what you mean.
But they appreciate the artistry they put out there when they work. But they're different cats. And I think that's what Cam Newton did, and I think he rubbed people the wrong way. But I watched that video a couple times to make sure I didn't miss anything, and everything he said was true to my ears.
I've always loved characters like Cam Newton. I love the Jay Cutlers. I love the guys that were just raw and like just authentically them, no matter what. Like Cam's always gonna be Cam, dude. And I don't think it was the best fit with him and the Patriots. I mean, you can say it was a good fit idealistically, because of the good defense and because they know how they find ways to run the ball efficiently. So that typically works for him. But I just think, as much as it pains me to say, and I love Cam, and I've always loved the talent that he is and the way he changed the game with just his pure physicality. He's washed, man. His arm is just not good anymore. After these surgeries and these injuries, you can see it last year. If he's not running the touchdowns in, his ability to throw accurately, consistently downfield, over the shoulder throws, even over the middle up the seam, like he didn't have that zip on his throw, and he was an incredible thrower of the ball in his first few years. Man, he was incredible. He just doesn't have that anymore. You can just see a lot of it's just gone. And I think the Patriots knew it, and I think that they drafted Mac Jones to be the guy, and he's gonna be the guy. And like you said, Lance, a gigantic personality like that in that quarterback room. He's not going to sit back and let Mac Jones just become the guy and take his job from him. So I feel like this was just them, pulling the Band-Aid off. Saying, hey, there's a lot of mutual respect between Belichick and Cam, as there is across the league. I think Cam's very respected across the league for the most part, just being who he is. But yeah, I've always enjoyed his character. I've always enjoyed who he is. He's had some comments that were definitely. He probably wishes he could have back. I think back like that one against that one female reporter. Just certain things like that. He's a couple hiccups in his career, but overall, man, I've always loved him for who he is. And the reason being, I think the main reason they cut him is, like supposedly Mac Jones was teaching the playbook. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that was the other part. He laughed that off.
Yeah,
that's bullshit. We
Come
all know.
on. This dude's been in the league how long? And you're going to tell me Mac Jones is coming here and teaching the playbook, the one he was running last year? Like, stop.
Yeah, I do like that his dad did stand up for his son in that video when he talked about Eddie brought it up, a fucking Zolock or whatever that jackass's name that brought up the hip hop being a distraction. Like that I love that his dad stepped up for him in that and talked about how ridiculous that was, because Cam even said, he goes, people think this is a show. He goes, you can find me in my kitchen with no cameras around. You put some music on, I'm bopping to it.
Absolutely.
So he's just a genuine soul. Is he arrogant? Yes. Is he egotistical? Yes. A lot of people are. Like, that's the thing that to me, guys, I'm just going to say it. I think it's easier for America to point that out when it comes to people of color in that stratosphere, because you see a white dude like Baker Mayfield with pictures where he's biting on his necklace.
Take a
Everyone's like,
picture
oh,
of the
that's
tiger.
fucking tight, man. Oh,
Yeah.
this dude got swag. Cam Newton does the same picture, like, oh, look at this cocky son of a bitch.
We wanted Johnny Football to succeed so bad.
Yeah, it's so easy to just to kick them. Yeah,
The double
to kick them
standard,
with it.
yeah.
Let Johnny Manziel be a black or Hispanic guy doing that
Exactly.
shit, and people are crushing.
neck tat
I mean, look
shit.
at the shit that Tatis has gotten in baseball.
Yeah.
For being when he gets that little strut going, when he's about to hit third base. I love that shit. Yeah, I love when he does it. People are like, "Oh, you better beat that motherfucker." It's like, dude, let him live. Alfonso from the Mets does the same shit. Alonso does the same shit, and nobody cares.
Yeah.
You saw him during the home run derby. He was all, doing his thing. Alonso from the Mets.
It's the same thing with Russell Westbrook,
Yeah,
too.
man. It's like, let these dudes live, man. But yes, I get it. Like Cam, the way he comes about things, sometimes he's a little weird. But come on, man. Like if you're good at what you do, why does those things matter? Mm-hmm. Why do you got to bring up the type of sport, the music you like? What if you listen to Bob Seger?
Yeah.
What if he's a Bob Seger fan? You're gonna sit here and say that Bob Seger was distracting Cam Newton? Get the fuck out of here, man.
Well, it's like Kanye and his MAGA hat, but yeah, I mean, I think you know what I mean. Like I think Cam's done in the NFL. Honestly, I really do. I don't think Cam's got much of a future left in this league. And he's definitely not going to go play backup somewhere. I think Cam's waiting. If there's an opportunity that opens up, and if somebody gets hurt or something like that, he might go fill in as a spot starter. But yeah.
I think Cam's done.
Yeah, I didn't like what I saw, and I'm a big fan, man. Always have been, and I just had last year he was not good at throwing the football.
A lot of people were talking about the Chiefs should bring him in. Look, guys, I'm opposed to it just simply because of the fact, I'm just going to be real, because he's an unvaccinated player. I don't want to have that risk coming into the Chiefs organization. The Chiefs are almost a 100% vaccinated team.
We have no reason to have him.
There's no reason for him to be here as a backup, because I'm not sitting here saying Chad Henne is the second coming. I'm just saying that I feel more comfortable with Chad Henne being here from a health standpoint and from a reliability standpoint of him knowing this offense. Bringing Cam Newton here, it's only a name at this point.
He's an alpha. We don't need another alpha.
And
exactly.
music will distract us. So.
Right.
Exactly. No more hippity hop. Okay, none of the hippity hops, guys.
Yeah, that's it, man.
All right, good Eddie hour.
Yeah.
Every single week Eddie does that for us, man. I always appreciate his viewpoints, because you bring out stuff that we don't normally talk about on the show, because obviously it's just Chiefs football, LeBron James, Chiefs football. You give us some insight on baseball and things of that nature. I do love the fact you're rocking that bad boy, the Messi jersey. You said you got that as soon as he signed with France, so that's pretty cool, you man. You should give a little twirl, Eddie. Show the people on the camera what he got going, man.
Shake that ass.
Woo! Dun, 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 dun. So we have I think it's a pretty important game this week, guys. The Chiefs start their season off on Sunday.
Is that important?
So it's an important game. I think it's a statement game for both teams to start off this season. To be honest with you guys, I was actually very excited when the schedule came out and saw the Browns were the first on the docket, because of the fact that I knew there was going to be so many changes for both teams. This was going to be a game where both are going to figure out just what they are and who they are very early. And first of all, let's look at the notable injury report that's going on right now. Let's start with the Browns. It looks like Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be questionable. He's been a limited participant all week long.
He's trending towards playing.
He's trending towards playing, but he's questionable right now with the knee.
Yeah, I'm not worried
Jadeveon
about him.
Clowney's been sick all week long. He doesn't have COVID, but they said he has some sort of sickness that has limited him at practice. I'm sure he'll give it a go. The notable one, honestly, is J.C. Treader, their starting center. He has a knee injury, and he's questionable as well. He's been limited all week long. So that's going to be very important to watch as
Big
well.
for the running game, for sure.
Yeah, and then on the Chiefs side of things, Austin Blythe obviously is going to be out with his abdomen. Frank Clark's been a limited participant all week long with his hamstring. He didn't play all preseason, and he's going to be questionable for this game. Derek Nottie is also questionable.
Yeah.
I believe he has a hip injury.
That's a big loss.
Yeah, Laurent Duvernay Tardif was actually a full go all week long with his hand, so he's there in case he has to fill in. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a full participant.
Good to go.
Trey Smith was a full participant. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Mike Rimmers. Those guys are all ready to go. The only real concern I have from the Chiefs' injury report that's obviously not on there, it's on the COVID list, is Tyrann Mathieu. Now, we've all been sitting here trying to find out what exactly is going to happen. As of yesterday, Tyrann Mathieu was still on the COVID list for the Chiefs. Supposedly, he had still tested positive for COVID. He is asymptomatic, and he is vaccinated. So those are two big hurdles that he had to overcome in order to be able to play Sunday. The biggest concern is according to the NFL policy, as a vaccinated player, you have to have back-to-back negative test results within 24 hours. Well, he's going to have to test positive today, test negative today and test negative tomorrow in order for him to even have a shot. That doesn't look promising.
By 3 o'clock.
By 3 o'clock.
Yes, 3 hours to test negative.
He's not
Yes.
playing.
So I think we need to come to the grips that we're going to be seeing the Chiefs play without Tyrann Mathieu for the first time in 2 seasons.
It's Juan Thornhill time.
What sucks about this is the fact that Tyrann Mathieu, in his time with the Chiefs, so last season, he played 91% of the snaps. The second closest player on this defense was 81% of the snaps. So this guy has been on the field almost all the time. He has been a pivotal character to the way that the Chiefs have been able to play on defense, not only this last season, but the season before. I've told you guys that Tyrann Mathieu, to me, means just as much as Patrick Mahomes does to this team in a sense of culture change. He brought something to this defense that they haven't had in 2 decades. And he brought it, and he's continually brought it. That is a big loss. However, my biggest takeaway with this is the fact that I think that the Chiefs are able to buy time without Tyrann Mathieu in a matchup like this for all the factors coming into this season from the Super Bowl on, but because of the fact that also this isn't a game in November where you know what, maybe they'll have an off game here and there. We know how the Chiefs do since 2018 with Patrick Mahomes in the early parts of the season. They come out hot and heavy. And the 3 week 1 games that Patrick Mahomes has played in his career, they're 3-0. He completes 69% of his passes, averages over 320 yards a game, has
Undefeated.
10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions with a 124 quarterback rating, which is ironic because I actually have Patrick Mahomes setting a new NFL record this season with a 124 quarterback rating for a season. Aaron Rodgers currently holds it with a 122.5. I think Patrick Mahomes breaks that this year. That's the biggest reason why I'm confident the Chiefs still win this game with or without Tyrann Mathieu. Because although he is so important to what they do, and he was great in the divisional game against the Browns, this offense, I believe, can carry them this week. I think you can get a 2018-esque game from Patrick Mahomes where he knows he has to go out there and do this. Plus the fact that I think, as crazy as this may sound right now, but I don't think it'll be crazy in a few weeks, I think the Chiefs secondary has gotten better this year from last year, even though they lost Bashad Breeland. Biggest reason, L'Jarius Sneed, or Lord Jarius Sneed, as we like to say up in this bitch, has gotten better from a season ago. I think he's going to be an all-pro type player this year. I think DeAndre Baker, the addition of DeAndre Baker and Mike Hughes, along with Daniel Sorensen and Juan Thornhill being healthy and ready to go, I think they will give enough in the defensive back area to help make do without Tyrann Mathieu. I'm not trying to downplay this being a loss. It is a loss.
Yeah.
But because
His
of the
leadership
fact,
alone.
yes, you're talking about, okay, let's look at this matchup just for a second, guys. Everyone is focusing on the fact that the Chiefs have 5 new starting offensive linemen, which I get. That is a big thing to consider. You losing an entire offensive line from one season to the next is always going to bring up concerns or questions. But name me a single position outside of maybe Lucas Niang at right tackle that the Chiefs didn't upgrade. Every single position. Go look at that Super Bowl offensive line and see the offensive lines going into week 1 and tell me where they didn't upgrade outside of right tackle. Because Mitchell Schwartz was obviously the truth, but he got hurt in week 5. So they essentially played almost the majority of that season without him. Now you're getting a healthy Lucas Niang, who Chase Young said numerous times was the toughest dude he ever faced in college. But here's the biggest thing I think people are not focusing on, is that although the Chiefs have 5 new starting offensive linemen, the Cleveland Browns defense has 9 new starters on defense. There's only 11 spots, in case anyone forgot. So 9 of their 11 starters on defense are brand new players. And this is their first game together as a nucleus. And one of those starters is Jadeveon Clowney, who had an eggshell in the sack column last season.
And you got to face the Chiefs.
And your first game is on the road in Arrowhead against Patrick Mahomes, who's pissed off from a Super Bowl humiliation. That's your first game as a nucleus? There's no warming up. You don't get to work your way into the season and gel as a unit. So though I get, and here's the other thing, I get that the Browns have recognizable names coming from last year to this year with Myles Garrett, obviously an absolute stud,
be a good team,
and Denzel Ward, who's great in his own regard. But even with those two guys on their defense last season, this is where their defense ranked in these areas. They were 17th in total yards allowed. They were 22nd in pass yards allowed, and 21st in scoring defense. And they had one of the easiest schedules in the NFL last season. And let's not forget something either, guys. Baker Mayfield was terrible in that divisional round game against the Chiefs. He had 204 yards, which was less. He had less than 6 yards per attempt in that game. 5.5 yards per attempt. Awful.
The whole offense was bad, really.
Yeah. 1 touchdown, 1 interception with a 75 quarterback rating. That was with less than 17,000 Chiefs fans in attendance. We're going to have 73,000 plus in attendance on Sunday.
It's going to be loud.
Not to mention that the Chiefs have improved their defensive front seven with Jaron Reed. Like, people are still sleeping on that pick.
Anchor.
I know Noddy's going to be banged up, and he may not give it a go. I think he's going to try. Frank Clark's going to be on a snap count. I think he does play, but he plays on a snap count. But Jaron Reed's addition is going to open up so much for Chris Jones. Being on the edge, I think he's going to play a lot of edge in this game.
Yeah.
I want to give... this is the same thing I said before the season, guys. Remember I talked about the AFC and who's going to... Give me a compelling case as to who's going to beat the Chiefs this year for the AFC title. No one could do it. No one could give me a legitimate reason. So explain to me, with all those factors, with even Tyrann Mathieu considered not being available, which I believe he's not going to play this Sunday, how does this help the Browns in any regard? A brand new defense without not named Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. You're facing a juggernaut offense pissed off because of what just happened to them 7 months ago in the Super Bowl. And you're going against Arrowhead and the spirit and the energy that place brings for the first time since the 2019 AFC Championship game. Explain to me how I'm supposed to buy in that this Browns team is going to come in here with confidence and a resilience to beat this Chiefs team. I'd love to hear it.
No, yeah, I mean, I think I'm expecting a good game. I think both these teams are going to be very excited. I think both of these coaches are really good coaches, obviously. Coach of the year, and then obviously Andy Reid being who he is. I expect the Browns to be creative. They have a plethora of weapons as well. Their running back core might be the best in the league, and their O-line is very good. So that's all. I mean, we shut them down pretty much for the most part, running wise in that game last year in the playoffs. I think the Browns will have. I think this is another year with Baker in that offense. And two, you can look at all the new additions on the Browns defense as an edge on us as well. Not saying that it is, but I'm saying on the flip side of that, we haven't seen all these guys on tape either, right? So we haven't seen that defensive scheme on tape either with all these new bodies and what their tendencies are, where they're going to put these guys in these positions. That can also be an advantage for them too, to disguise things that we haven't seen yet, because this is all new, a lot of new guys that had different strengths and weaknesses that we don't really know of yet, unless we just watch individual film on these guys where they played previously, or the rookies from their film in college days or whatever. I'm expecting a good game. I'm expecting a high-scoring game. I think Vegas is well. I think it's the second or third highest scoring game on the bracket. So, but I just think, with, like you said, I think it is going to be more towards the advantage for us with them having new defensive players, having to go against McCole Hardman, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Clyde, and then all these tight ends. I just think it's going to be overwhelming for that defense. They're really, 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 really going to be depending on their front seven to get after Patrick Mahomes. And I think our O-line is going to win that battle. I think our O-line is ready. We could talk about the new bodies. I just think these guys have been getting their reps. They've been getting more reps than I thought they would in the preseason. Andy Reid had them out there for quite a bit. And they look good together. I mean, they definitely look good together. I think Clyde's going to eat this week. I think he's going to eat in between, a lot of the screen game. I think Clyde's going to get a lot of that, and he's going to be very effective, because I think that's the weakest part of Cleveland's defense, is that in between. All right, where dumping it off to Kelce and Clyde and those beating those linebackers and those safeties. But as far as Tyrann goes, yeah, he's definitely going to be missed more for his leadership. I'm not saying his skill isn't important. His skill is obviously very important. The guy knows how to find the ball, and he's a ball hawk. He knows how to read quarterbacks maybe better than any safety in the league. But I think we'll see some L'Jarius Sneed at safety. I think L'Jarius Sneed's going to fill in a lot of safety. I think because I don't know if they trust Juan Thornhill yet. I really don't. I know Juan Thornhill made some plays in the preseason. He's coming back from injury still. Obviously, he's healthy, but I don't know mentally. I don't know if the coaches are fully bought into him to be that replacement guy directly for Tyrann. I think they trust Sneed more, and I think I trust Sneed more. I like Sneed's ability to I think he's going to rotate more, but I think he's going to play more safety than anybody on our roster. I think he's going to play that role. I know we got Baker. I know we got Hughes. Those guys will all rotate in. I think all those guys are versatile players that can play slot corner as well and some outside corner. I know Juan Thornhill can play slot corner as well. So I think we'll see. I think we'll be okay. We have good depth at that position, a lot of talent. My biggest thing is keeping everybody healthy, especially Baker, because the guy is continuously banged up. Keeping that guy healthy, and then But I'm excited to see what Snead's going to do out there. I think Snead's going to fill in nicely for Tyron.
Yeah, it's a big loss for the Chiefs. For the like a captain with the captain role, but the leadership role. That's what I was looking for. I think that's why this is a massive loss for the Chiefs, just for the leadership, for the defense. He is that defense's leader, and not having him there in the sidelines or anything, like not even there. It could hurt a little bit of the defense, but I think we have enough talent to cover that absence. I think Chris Jones can step up in that leadership role and kind of take over for that defense. I think he can officially be that second guy that defense can count on. You know what I mean? If either or are not there on the field, they can count on either or. You know what I mean? So I think Chris Jones can step up into that leadership role of the defense. Take this under his wing. So I don't think the defense is going to struggle as bad. Like Trevor said, I think Snead we could see him play some safety plays out there. But I do believe in Juan Thornhill. I think
I do too.
He's a good player. I think he's going to have a good game tomorrow. I think he's gonna cover Tyrann Mathieu pretty good. I think he's going to be a good backup back there. I think he's going to be a good player. Offensively, there's nothing I can add to whatever you guys said. I think Patrick Mahomes is gonna have a great game. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is just gonna eat. I think he's gonna have he could very well have over 100 rushing yards, maybe a touchdown in there, 2 touchdowns, receiving, why not? Travis Kelce is gonna have another massive game. I think Tyreek Hill is also gonna have a great game. With the Cleveland Browns, that defense being pretty much brand new, like Trevor said, I think that can be a benefit to them because the Chiefs don't have that tape of them altogether, so they don't know what kind
Different
of plays.
packages.
Yeah, they don't know what kind of plays they run. They don't know how they work together. But it can also work in the Chiefs' favor because they don't have that connection between them. You know, they haven't played with each other at all other than preseason.
Chemistry.
So the chemistry. Yeah. Thank you. So I think that can affect that defense, but it can either be beneficial to them or it can be, I guess you'd say detrimental.
Detrimental, yeah.
So they can either work either way. Baker Mayfield, I think he's gonna have a good game. It all depends if Odell Beckham's gonna play or not. Is he healthy? Is he not healthy? How healthy is he when if he does play? What's the other receiver? Jarvis Landry. Is he?
The tight end is what I'm worried about.
Yeah. So, I want to see what the Browns can do offensively, and like you said, they're missing their center.
Well, he's questionable, but a knee injury. Yeah.
But so we'll see. He might not be 100%, so that can be beneficial to the new guy that we got, Reed, Jaron Reed. So that can fucking just go through there easier. But yeah, it's gonna be a great game.
This is okay. I understand there is concern, like I said from the very top, that without this offensive line playing at all in real games for the Chiefs, that is, I understand that you're thinking, oh my God, they're going against Myles Garrett. That's going to be really rough. But think about what's happened in this training camp. Who was this offensive line going up against in training camp? Chris Jones, Jaron Reed, Frank Clark. Like, there are some legitimate. Treshawn Wharton needs to get some respect, for God's sakes. Like, these guys have brought it against Creed Humphrey, brought it against Trey Smith, brought it against Orlando Brown. We got the replacements out here, Big bug eyes out there.
It's a new doggy dog.
Look, they went up against some studs in training camp. So I think if any young nucleus of an offensive line was ready for this type of challenge week one, I think it would be the Chiefs' offensive line. Do I think they might struggle when they put Myles Garrett over on Lucas Niang? Yeah. But I also think the Chiefs are going to scheme out of that because Andy Reid has been one of those coaches that has been infamous for not putting his offensive line in the place of failure, to an opportunity to fail. He knows how to work his offensive lines. That's why I feel he's so comfortable having young guys in his offensive line because, and why I was so comfortable, why I predicted 5 for 5 on the offensive line this year, is because although they don't have a lot of NFL experience outside of Joe Thuney, because even Orlando Brown has had only, it's a couple of seasons of actual NFL experience and only 1/2 season of NFL experience at left tackle. Why I love this nucleus together is because they have so much talent across the board, and this coaching staff is one of the best coaching staffs, if not the best coaching staff in the NFL, to tap into said talent. So I trust that the offensive coordinators, the coaching staff as a whole, is going to have these guys as prepared as anyone in the NFL. And we have seen young offensive lines throughout the decades come together and gel almost immediately. Now, again, I think as young and as unproven as this offensive line is, I think they're a more proven commodity than the Browns' defense is right now. Because if you look at the Browns' defense as currently constructed, outside of Myles Garrett, they have no other certainties. Denzel Ward, although a really good player, has missed at least 4 games every season of his career so far. Every single season. He's had injury concerns. He's had problems staying healthy. That is a legitimate reason to be worried about Denzel Ward. Not to mention the fact they're relying heavily on Peoples-Jones, who was a 6th-round pick last season, who played really good at the end of last season, but we have not seen him play a full season yet.
As a third receiver.
Huh?
As a third or fourth receiver.
As a third receiver, yes. I'm saying, but he's going to be a guy they're going to be looking towards because guys like L'Jarius Sneed and Baker and all them are going to force the ball because we don't know if Odell Beckham is going to be what he is or what he's been. Since 2017,
I don't think he's going to play much.
Since 2017, Odell Beckham Jr. has averaged 50 receptions, 677 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
He's never had a great connection with Baker either.
Yeah, he has not been what we thought he was going to be through the trajectory of his career over his first 3 seasons are historic. Yeah. Outside of that, he's been hurt, he's been limited, he's not been a great receiver since then. So their offense on the other side is going to have to rely on guys like Peoples-Jones, who we don't know what's going to be really.
Yeah, go ahead.
And on the defensive side, to just continue that, you have Greg Newsome as a rookie. That's going to have to go against either Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Then you have J.O.K. who's out here talking that shit, saying he's going to be ready for Travis Kelce. That's cute, because look what Denzel Ward did last year in the divisional round when Patrick Mahomes was healthy. Yeah. And speaking of when Patrick Mahomes was healthy, with a battered offensive line not to mention, with turf toe not to mention, they were on pace to score 38 points in that game before Patrick Mahomes got injured. The Chiefs were going to hang almost 40 points on the Browns last season, who, again, we were talking about the Browns coming into those playoffs like, oh my God, they just blew out the Steelers. They might come into Arrowhead and give the Chiefs some run. Before that was happening, the Chiefs were up 19-3 and then 19-10. Yep. The Chiefs are driving for a touchdown. Patrick Mahomes literally gets KO'd on that drive. They would have scored another touchdown. Right, but it ended up being a game that it wasn't going to be ultimately. The Chiefs are going to roll the Browns in that game. I see a similar outcome in this one.
Oh, dude, it's the home opener, bro.
Because of all that. But here's the other thing we haven't even mentioned yet.
Yeah.
The Browns are coming into this game with something they've never had over the last 3 decades. Expectations. Yep. Going into last season, everybody knew the Browns had talent, but no one was expecting to go on the run they went on. When they went 11-5 and almost won their division and then won a playoff game and smoked the Steelers, no one was expecting that. They have expectation this year. People are legitimately picking the Browns to win the Super Bowl. That is pressure they have not faced yet. So with all the things we all just broke down, with the uncertainties on defense, and Baker Mayfield playing horrible in the Arrowhead last year with 16,000 fans as opposed to 73, now they got to come in here and prove it. Do any of you feel like they're going to be able to prove it on Sunday against all those odds? No, I don't feel it. Are they a good team? Yes. You both have them winning their division. I have them at 11-6. That's a really good team. We all 3 have them as playoff teams penciled in. Because they're good. They're a good team. But when you come against all those factors and then expectation to top it off, I don't feel confident that team's going to come in here and answer the call week 1. If it was week 8, week 9, week 10, I could sit here and go, you know what? This Browns team over the last 2 months has really proven to me something. They could come in here as a galvanized team that can maybe upset the Chiefs. I would entertain it. It's week fucking 1, man. It's the first time we've had a packed Arrowhead in almost 2 years. Patrick Mahomes is healthy with a great offensive line in front of him, motivated and driven to re-cement the legacy that he's already been building. The Browns are fucked this week, man. I know that people can drag me if I'm wrong. I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to be. The Chiefs are going to hang a lot of points in this game. The last 3 years, they've averaged 37 points per game in week 1s, and they've played some good defenses in those 3 games. I don't see how it's going to be any different this time around. Could the Browns score an extra touchdown because Tyrann Mathieu's not out there? Yes, they absolutely could. But see, the problem with the Browns in itself is the fact that they're an offense that is run-first style. They are predicated on the run game.
And the tight ends.
And you see that when the Chiefs score early, they force their opposition to do what? Throw the ball. When Baker Mayfield has to lead your offense and throw the ball 30, 40 times, you don't win a lot of games because he's not that type of quarterback. He's a complementary piece. I've always said he's more of a Kirk Cousins-style quarterback. You let your run game do the majority of the work, and he makes a couple key throws.
That's how they built
That's
this team.
what he is.
Yeah, they built this roster specifically for the strengths and weaknesses of Baker. They built this defense to be a team, and they built this offense to be a team to play, from ahead. That's why, if you're going to be a run-heavy team, you better be playing from ahead and have a solid defense backing that up, or else that formula is going to fall flat in your face. I do like Baker. I think he is equipped to handle the pressure and the expectations because he played at a big school in college and was one of the most successful quarterbacks of this era in college. So he was very much. There's a reason he was drafted as high as he was as the number 1 pick, and I think he's been a good quarterback. He hasn't lived up to the expectations, but he hasn't been on the greatest roster so far. But this is by far the best roster he's ever had, maybe will ever have in his career. They don't have a lot of they're not a big play offense outside of the running game. Nick Chubb is at any moment could break off a 50-yard touchdown run. That's what's dangerous about this team. It's not dangerous because of the quarterback. Baker's not a dangerous quarterback. He's just not. He's an Alex Smith type guy. I'd say, yeah, he's probably in the same vein as Alex Smith, Kirk Cousins type player. He's good at playing against man coverage. He can beat, but he doesn't have a lot of game breaker receivers to beat man coverage on a consistent basis. This is why they depend on the running game. This is why they do find success, and they found success against us a couple times with their tight ends. They have talented, Austin Hooper and Njoku. Those are 2 very talented tight ends, 2 very deadly guys, and they've beat us before. Njoku's had a big game against us, I think, last year. We've seen them, succeed in that realm. And that's the only worry I have with Tyrann being out. And having to face these big athletic tight ends, that is a slight concern. But overall, I think like I said, L'Jarius Sneed, Juan Thornhill, and our replacement guys, I feel like they can cover those tight ends fairly well because I think they're going to really attack the middle and play the underneath game and then depend on their running backs. But the running backs only really succeed if you're playing from a lead, and I don't know if I see the Browns ever having a lead in this game. I think we're going to come out. The Chiefs, Andy Reid and the Chiefs, even with the Alex Smith days, love to break it wide open early. They love to, get those. Remember what was a couple years ago when we broke the game wide open with Anthony Sherman on a wheel route to the house in San Diego or in L.A. I can't remember if it was in that stadium. Yeah, it was in L.A. We're gonna see some trickery from Andy Reid to start this year off, and there's no way the Chiefs are gonna go out there and lose this home opener to this Browns team.
If you want to add anything to that, I just have one more thing I need to bring up about this because of the fact that we've seen this team go up against each other within the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Not just the divisional game last year. We're talking about in 2018 when Patrick Mahomes was proving himself and Baker Mayfield was obviously trying to prove himself as well. You saw how the Chiefs went out there and the first half it was pretty even. But the Chiefs went back-to-back, I believe it was back-to-back touchdown drives that forced Baker Mayfield to throw the ball. He ended up throwing the ball 42 times in that game and had 2 touchdowns and a pick. Not a bad game. Nick Chubb had 85 yards on 22 carries and a touchdown. That was early in the game, though. He did most of his damage in the first half. The Chiefs are going to get the Browns off balance. I think the Chiefs are going to go in there and look actually very sharp, kind of like that Vikings game in the preseason where you see them be very efficient and very fluid on offense, because I also think we got to talk about this 14 personnel they're going to bring out there and force some of these young rookies on the defensive side like JOK and Newsome to go up against guys that are 7-8 inches taller than them. And I think that's going to be a real problem for these young guys. I think Greg Greg Newsom's going to be a really good player. He's the 26th overall pick in this last draft. I think JOK has a good chance of being a good player too.
Absolutely.
The problem is this is just such a tough matchup for the Browns in this game for the first game of the season. And not to mention, not that this really matters overall, but the Browns also haven't won a home open or a week 1 game since 2004. There is something to that in the sense of a team knowing there's a monkey on their back.
Yeah,
the
it can be
pressure's on
motivating
there
for them.
And this is what I'm talking about. Expectation on such a young team like the Browns that have guys like Odell Beckham Jr. you're uncertain is going to be there, not knowing if Jadeveon Clowney, even if healthy, is going to give you anything to begin with.
Yeah.
I just, outside of Myles Garrett and their run game, I don't really believe that the Browns have anything in this game that can counterbalance what the Chiefs do. Baker is a good quarterback, but Baker is not good enough to keep up with Patrick Mahomes, and it's been proven multiple times already in their early careers. Like I said, that first game, the Chiefs beat them 37-21 in Cleveland, and that was back when we had full houses. That was back when we had full houses, and that was back when Patrick Mahomes only had a handful of games in his career, and he went in there and destroyed that
Travis
defense.
Kelce had a hell of a
Travis
game.
Kelce had 2 receiving touchdowns in that game. I could see something very similar, but I think, honestly, I want to get you guys' thoughts as to who you guys think is going to be a player that's going to have a big game outside of the obvious guys like Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. I'm not expecting a ton out of Tyreek Hill in this game because I think the Browns are going to focus on him and try to avoid the big plays, which is why it's going to segue right into my guy, McCole Hardman. I think the Chiefs, I've been big on this all offseason, all preseason, and going into week 1. I'm going to stay consistent because I believe that McCole Hardman is going to have 56 catches for over 800 yards and 8 touchdowns this season. I think it starts early this year. I think you're going to see them make a statement with McCole Hardman because there's so much out there about McCole Hardman not becoming the player that people expected him to be. I don't know if he's ever going to be a star player, but I'm willing to give him an opportunity to prove himself. And in year 3, he's going to finally show without Sammy Watkins there and with Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill still taking the brunt and the majority of the focus from defenses each and every week. He's going to get a lot of one-on-ones against cornerback 2s and cornerback 3s and sometimes nickel safeties. McCole Hardman, I think, is going to have a monster game. I'm not saying he's going to have 115 yards and 2 touchdowns, but in McCole Hardman standards, I think you could see a 6 reception, 85 yards, and a touchdown type game. If they get that of McCole Hardman in this game, the Chiefs are blowing out the Browns in this game. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a blowout necessarily, but I think with the 6.5 point spread right now that's in the Chiefs' favor, I think the Chiefs can cover this one. I think for sure. Who do you guys think is going to be a breakout player?
My guy's Clyde this week, man. I think Clyde is not just in the rushing game. We developed this O-line not only for pass pro, but for run blocking. And this O-line is a run blocking fiend of a team. And Joe Thuney was known for run blocking. And he came from the Patriots, which was a whole lot of running in that offense. Was very good at creating holes. Creed Humphrey up in the middle is the anchor. I think Clyde's going to have himself a day. A good mix of both rushing and receiving. I have him at least catching right around 6 catches, probably around 50 to 60 plus yards receiving, getting over 100 yards total for the day, and a couple scores. I have Clyde having a day this weekend. Man.
Well, I'm going to go with Travis Kelce. I think Travis Kelce is going to have a day out there. I think him being the first option for Patrick Mahomes in those blitz, I think he's going to go off.
Yeah.
I think Patrick Mahomes kind of having him as his first read with Myles Garrett pushing in. I think
Travis Kelce always gets up for a home. This is his home. This is like his home team,
Exactly.
So anytime they play the Browns, like this is his chance.
It's going to be loud out there. I think
Yeah.
I think Travis Kelce might go a little bit over 100 receiving yards.
That would surprise
Sunday.
no one.
So.
In 3, just to end this off, because I have one last statement to make, and we're going to go to the Monday mailbag. In Patrick Mahomes in Week 1 games in his career, I'll give you the exact numbers. They're 3-0. He completes 69% of his passes. Nice. 282 yards per game, 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions with a 131 quarterback rating. I think Patrick Mahomes actually ups that average this week. Because I said that this is going to be a 2018 activated type of game. Now that they know they don't have Tyrann Mathieu for the first time in 3 years, I think you're going to see Patrick Mahomes of 2018 come out for this game because he knows that, you know what, there's a chance that the absence of Tyrann Mathieu could cost him an extra touchdown or 2. I think Patrick Mahomes goes out there and say, you know what, I'm going to throw 4 touchdowns this week. I think Patrick Mahomes has 4 touchdowns in this game. And I do think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to get one of them. Mm-hmm. I do believe McCole Hardman's going to get one of them. And I wouldn't be shocked if Travis gets 2 of them.
I would, yeah.
So
we're going to spread the ball around.
I'm going to say right now, guys, I'm going to put this on record. And people are watching, listening, and viewing however they're doing that. I think Patrick Mahomes has over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns in this game. I really believe that because they're going to expose the new nucleus of this Browns defense. I think this Browns defense, as the season progresses, is going to get really good because they got a ton of talent. But they're so young. and this is their first time together. 9 of the 11 starting defenders for the first time have to go to Arrowhead with a raucous crowd, pissed off and ready to take back that title. I feel really bad for the Browns defense this week. I will be there. I will be in attendance, and if anybody's out there, come hang out with us. But I really believe that this is going to be one of those games where Patrick Mahomes goes back and says, you know what? I'm going to go fuck around and throw 404 tubs, like my guy Shannon Sharp likes to say. I think he has a 4-touchdown game this week. So, in that, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Let us know on Twitter at The Spoken Pod. And you see our Twitter handles as well. Hit us up on Twitter or on Facebook, on our Facebook group. It's The Spoken. Let us know what you guys think is going to happen this week. And we're going to have our full slate of picks tomorrow morning as we do each and every year during the NFL season. God damn, I love that we're back, man. We get an opportunity to show you guys who our picks are all week long. So far, we're all 1-0, so things are looking good for us right now. I believe that the Chiefs are going to help us get 2-0. But in the meantime, we're going to get to you guys in the Monday mailbag. Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo, what's in the Monday mailbag this week?
Man, first question comes from Corey Jones. The Raiders had 3 third-round picks in 2020, and 2 of them never played one snap for the team. Are Mayock and Gruden ever going to be on the hot seat, specifically Mike Mayock?
I said back when they hired Mike Mayock in 2019 that I said within 3 years he's getting fired. I think Mike Mayock is going to get fired either during or after this season. And it'll be right on schedule, what I believe. Not because I'm going to fully blame Mike Mayock, because I believe he was set up for failure from the beginning, just from the franchise standpoint alone of what he inherited coming there. Now, it is his choice to take on this job, but I get why he took it. John Gruden is the biggest cancer with this team. And I'm including Derek Carr in that equation. Because of the fact we've seen worse quarterbacks once they got attached to a proven head coach or a head coach that can elevate them, success followed. No, they've gotten worse over the last 4 seasons with John Gruden than they were the previous 4 seasons without John Gruden. They have less wins in a 4-year span with John Gruden than the previous seasons with Jack Del Rio and Tom Cable. So that should tell you something about where John Gruden is taking this team, not Mike Mayock. Unfortunately, Mike Mayock doesn't have the 10-year, $100 million contract sitting on there, and he's in the middle of it. Mike Mayock is going to be the scapegoat because they have Derek Carr for at least 1 more year. They're not going to be trading Derek Carr this season. So Mike Mayock's going to be the one that's heads on the axe. John Gruden is safe as could be. In fact, I think John Gruden's one of the safest coaches in the NFL just based on his contract alone and the fact that he is in, and I mean in with the Davis family. He's going nowhere. Derek Carr's going nowhere. Mike Mayock's going to be the one that is the fall guy.
I said it on the last podcast, man. I don't think Gruden's going to fulfill his contract. I think him and Mayock both are going to be gone. If they fall flat like I fully expect them to this year, to be the worst team in this division, they took a step back, like we've all discussed on this show. They took a step back. What the Chiefs did progressively, they did regressively this offseason. So I think, I think they're both going to lose their jobs. If it's not this offseason, I think it'll be next. They've done nothing impressive. They have not done one impressive thing. They're squandering the talent that is Josh Jacobs. They gave him a worse O-line this year. They didn't improve there. They were desperately trying to trade back Khalil Mack. It's just been a dumpster fire over there, man. They got a new, beautiful stadium, maybe one of the nicest stadiums in the league. New location in Las Vegas, which is a great spot, a good tour spot. It's always going to have people in there. A lot of people are going to travel to go watch those games just because it's Vegas. It's another event to do out there while you're out there. It's everything optic-wise. It could be a great spot and a great thing for this team and his fan base, but the leadership, it all starts at the head, man. The leadership is failing them badly. So yeah, I don't believe in the future there. I think Mayock and Gruden have failed, and I think that the leadership, the ownership of that team is gonna understand that, and this year might be the nail in the coffin.
All right, next question, Donnie Couch. Hey guys, hope you had a nice week. Should Salvi be an MVP candidate?
Yeah, he absolutely should be an MVP candidate.
Is he not an MVP candidate?
I mean, I imagine he's going to probably finish
at
worst. He'll finish 4th in the MVP candidacy. I think he's going to be a top 3 MVP candidate. The problem, though, as we all know, is outside of A-Rod back in, I think it was a 2001 or 2002 with the Rangers, guys don't win MVPs or even get close to winning MVPs if they're on bad teams. And the Royals are a bad team. So, unfortunately for Salvador Perez, because of where he plays and who he plays with, he has really no shot unless he hits 6 home runs in his next 2 games and gets up to 48 and ties the record with the Royals record. I don't really think he has a legitimate chance, but if we're going to sit here and ask if he's in the candidacy, yes, 100% he is.
Yeah, I 100% agree too. I don't think he'll get some votes, but he's not going to win it. But he absolutely, with the performance he's had this year and him going for the the record. The guy's been hitting with the best of them, man. So absolutely, it's just the success of this team just doesn't follow suit. So him being on the Royals is with our record and what we are right now, it's just not helping him. But if we were a top seed team or heading into the postseason, and getting there, and I just don't. I think that's what anchors him down. But as far as his personal performances, absolutely, he should be an MVP candidate. But do I see him winning it? Absolutely not.
Next question. How excited are you for Week 1 football?
Well, just put it like this. I haven't stood up this entire show, so, I mean, that's probably something I should tell you where, I'm at. I've had to put ice down there all day long.
Nice.
So, look, I mean, how can you not be? I mean, just as a football fan, not even just as a Chiefs fan, as a football fan, think about it, man. We not just have football back, we have the real feeling of football back. Unless you're a Jags fan, you're gonna have home crowds. That's just how it's gonna be. Yeah, salty, whatever. I mean, people are gonna have to get over that shit. Look, man, it sucked that we lost that game. The Chiefs are back. Football's back.
Nothing worse than a sore loser, man.
And you get crowds back. That's the biggest thing. And my heart actually goes out to Saints fans because for the first 5-6 weeks of the season at least, they're not gonna have home games. Yeah. And this isn't something they're not used to. They've had this issue before back with Katrina.
And they won the Super Bowl.
And no shit. So that was it. Well, they had Drew Brees in his prime, so that kind of helps. But overall, I mean, how could you not be, man? Because like I said, it's been 7 long fucking months, man, of not having football, our favorite sports back. We're gonna have home crowds, home experiences, home vibes again, real raucous, noise, even on a TV experience when you have Monday Night Football games. Like I guarantee you, this week when they're in Las Vegas, when 3/4 of the stadium's packed with Ravens fans, it's gonna be a raucous crowd, dude. And you're gonna hear Lamar chants, MVP chants, and then Derek Carr's gonna be on the sidelines crying, and his eyeliner's gonna run, and it's just gonna be one of those things that I enjoy on an annual basis. So I'm excited as fuck.
Outside of the joy that my 2 beautiful children bring to me in my life as a father, this is the most joyful time of year. This is the most joyful feeling and just the aura and the fall season bringing coming into the year with football. It's just there's nothing like it. Like I said, outside of the joy and the love that I have for my kids and the smile that they put on my face and theirs. This is the best time of year every single year. I literally, it's like I wait for this time of year just to finally get here, and then when it's here, man, it's just like I said when we started the show, it's just the tingling sensation on the nads, man. It's just that it can't really explain it. It's just something that's just I come alive, man, more than I am at any time of the year until here. It's just a great feeling, and it's a fun time, man. It's a 16 to 18 week party. Sometimes for some fan bases it's a longer party than others, but I'm looking forward to the season as a Chiefs fan. It's a great time to be a Chiefs fan. It's a great time to be in Kansas City, and I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, man, I couldn't be more happy that it's here. So,
next question, Donnie Couch. You guys kind of touched. We kind of talked about it already. Are you confident the Chiefs won without the leader of the defense, Tyrann Mathieu, on the field?
Yeah, I am. I'm very confident. I think this offense is going to be great, and I think that's going to be what carries this team because we all know that at the end of the day, no matter how good this defense is going to be with or without Tyrann Mathieu, at the end of the day, it comes down to what Patrick Mahomes and this offense does.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed this in the last segment. Like, we're not worried about the replacement guys. I think we have a good depth at that position to rotate in and out. I believe in the talent of Baker, Hughes, and Snead especially. I think there's going to be guys that will, and like I said, it's not the passing game that we're worried about really. It's stopping that run game and us putting up points on our end. That's all we really got to worry about. There's no, especially if Odell is like at 45%. That's the only real game breaker guy they have. I mean, Higgins and all these other guys. Jarvis Landry's a slot guy. He's not a home run guy. He's a guy you might have to worry about in the red zone. But outside of that, I think our guys are going to hold their own, and it all starts up front. And we got Chris Jones, about to have a career year. Frank Clark on the other end. Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Stack the box on the defensive side. Force Baker Mayfield to beat you over the top. That I think is
literally what we did in the playoffs.
Yes,
and we shut the running game down.
And he threw for barely 200 yards, a touchdown, and a pick.
Right.
All right. Next question, Donnie Couch. If Marc Gasol retires, who should the Lakers target to replace him?
I think they already got it. They got a second round pick out of him. The Grizzlies bought out his deal, and he's going to stay in Spain with his family. I think this is just more of a, hey, thank you for your service, Gasol. We appreciate, we love you, man, but we're just going to let you go. I don't really know if they're going to be picking up anybody of note. They'll probably just add another, player to that roster that no one really. I think it'd be into the rotation, a 15th, character kind of guy. I think they have their team in place, and I don't think it's going to be anybody of note they add.
Yeah, I mean, I think they didn't. I think they knew who Gasol was at this point of his career. He's pretty washed. He's still a decent shooter at times, but I don't think they're depending on shooting bigs in this new offensive scheme. I think they brought Rondo back for a reason. They got DeAndre and Dwight Howard, who are two good slashing big men that are very good. That mesh really well with Rondo's game, the alley-oops, and they're both really good rim protectors. So that they have they have that great skill set on both ends of the floor. They're good at protecting the rim defensively, and they're also good at creating the slashing in the back door and those guys are very tall and both still have very good verticals of their size to get up and get those alley-oops from LeBron and Rondo. So I think those are better fits. And then, my only concern for the Lakers roster at this point is just, are they going to have consistent shooters for those outlets? That's it. That's all I really need to worry about is guys that LeBron and Rondo can dish out to in the perimeter and then hit shots consistently. And I think they do, but. Yeah, as far as Gasol goes, I think he's done, to be honest.
All right, next question comes from a friend of the show, Shaggy Shane. John Gruden was extremely candid last year in talking how Raiders quarterback Derek Carr took advantage of only playing in front of 17,000 fans at Arrowhead last October. Do you know what this Sunday will be like against Cleveland Arrowhead? Can you imagine the freaking sure insanity that we will see, feel, and experience? I seriously think those with a faint heart and high blood pressure should know what they are up against. And yes, I speak for myself. I don't need to say that Arrowhead will be loud this Sunday. That is a given. My only question is, do you think Cleveland can handle it?
No, I don't think Cleveland can handle it. And for the record, I hope that Shaggy doesn't croak out with any high blood pressure issues because I'm sitting next to him in this game. So that would really suck to have to carry his 6'4" frame outside of that stadium. So please, Shaggy, if you could, drink plenty of water, keep the sodium at a minimum, and we'll be just fine, brother. But no, I can't stress it enough, guys. I mean, I understand that teams can overcome crowd noise. But we also know and understand here, being people that watch a lot of football, that having a crowd like Arrowhead and Seattle and New Orleans and Washington and Denver, like those places, Green Bay even, those places have an energy to them, man, where these crowds know how to get at the opposition. They work together. Minnesota, too, I got to give them tons of credit. They were incredible 2 years ago in Arrowhead. They took over Arrowhead. That was an incredible to see that type of energy. And I guarantee you that felt like a road game for some of those Chiefs players. For the Browns to come into this game was, like I said, with so many uncertainties and players that are just starting their careers, I feel this is a really rough thing, and it might actually galvanize them, like I said earlier. It might actually galvanize this team as a whole, as a collective for the Browns, because they had to experience this early. But a lot of times that doesn't bode well for them in that moment. I think they can look back and say, hey, man, we got smacked around in Arrowhead, and that really sucked. Let's learn from that, and let's build from that as the season progresses, and let's get better because of it. That's what I think this kind of game is going to be for the Browns. I think this is going to be one of those games where the Chiefs got to take out a lot of that pent-up aggression they've had for 6-7 months with Patrick Mahomes healthy behind a great offensive line, a different team for the positive. Like Trevor said, we've progressed. The Chiefs have progressed. I think this is going to be the tale of two things for the Browns learning from this game and the Chiefs reminding everybody who the fuck they are. I think that's how this is going to go.
Yeah, the Browns' biggest mistake they can make is that they let which I think is going to happen, if they let the Chiefs go out there and get an early lead, gain momentum quickly. Because if you let this Chiefs team gain momentum quickly, and the fan base is already, the fan base can just let it out when you're out there when Baker's out there on the field, they can just be loud as hell. I mean, we've seen teams call timeouts numerous times in Arrowhead because they cannot hear, and it's distracting them from the clock. It's all these different things. We've been penalized for being too loud, literally. So yes, anytime any team comes to Arrowhead, that's in the back of their mind. So yeah, if we jump out to an early lead and Spags and Chris Jones and all our defensive guys know we can pin our ears back and just go in and this ruckus crowd is just out there, then we know we can just be as loud as possible when we have the lead. That's a major disadvantage for any team, let alone Baker Mayfield. And a lot of these inexperienced defenders out there trying to deal with all that. Yeah, of course, man. Of course.
Our last question from the Monday mailbag comes from Shaggy Shane. How long until DeAndre Baker jumps over Charvarius Ward on the depth chart?
I don't think that's going to happen, at least not for a while, because I actually think Charvarius Ward's going to have a pretty decent season.
Yeah, he could benefit from the other talent.
Yeah, and honestly, I think because of the fact that Charvarius Ward's going to be thrown at a lot more than even guys like Lorjarius Sneed, I think that it wouldn't shock me, and I believe it was our guy Ron Kopp Jr., one of the guys at Arrowhead Pride, when they did their bold predictions this year, like things that the Chiefs can do. It wouldn't shock me if Charvarius Ward led the team in interceptions this year. Because he's going to get more targets and more opportunities to pick the ball off. And Charvarius Ward is essentially playing for his Chiefs career. Because after this season, the Chiefs can just move on from him. He can become a free agent or get a long-term deal from the Chiefs. He's, 24 years old? This is if you really look at him, we've talked about motivating factors on this team. I mean, we haven't really talked a lot about Charvarius Ward. This could be that season where he really gets an opportunity to break out for himself. Yeah, so in a lot of ways, man, I think this is actually a benefit for Charvarius Ward. And honestly, we talk about galvanizing for the Browns and having an opportunity to go up against a juggernaut like the Chiefs week 1.
Yeah.
This could be galvanizing for the Chiefs not having Tyrann Mathieu out there for these young defenders that the Chiefs are going to be relying on this week.
He's looked pretty good in the preseason, too. He's held his own. He's played really well. He's played fast.
And that's not a knock on DeAndre Baker, because I like DeAndre Baker. I think this guy is a talent, and he could really implement himself into this defense because Spags likes him, too.
He's versatile.
He's a Spags guy. So I think that, he's versatile.
Just stay healthy,
so
please.
I don't even think it's going to be a competition between them as far as who's going to beat out who.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a collective where you're going to get opportunities for both guys to get themselves a chance to be on the field.
Yeah, and I think his direct competition would be more Rashad Fenton than it would be Baker.
In certain defensive packages, yes.
So I feel like Baker's more of a safety hybrid depth guy than he is a direct depth guy to Charvarius Ward.
He's a corner by nature.
He is, absolutely, but I'm saying that he can play both. I don't know. I don't know if he has. I think Charvarius' position is locked in. I think he's that starter position. I don't.
Yeah, Charvarius is more of a proven commodity to this point than DeAndre Baker.
Unless he's outright terrible. I have a bonus question real quick though. Who is your guys' in this game particularly? Who is your guys' defensive player that you want to watch for the most and to see
for the Chiefs?
Yeah, this week in this game, like who's your guy to watch defensively?
From a concern basis, or who I think is going to have a good season?
Just who you think who could have a big game that could like maybe not surprise, but just who you think is going to have a good game.
I think who's going to have a big game, and I don't think nobody's even like looking his direction is Jaron Reed or Jaron Reed. I think he might get Baker a couple times here. I think he's going to be, for me, the guy to watch in this defense. To me,
another guy that no one's talking about, but is a veteran on this defense that I think is going to have a great game. Anthony Hitchens. Think about this. Willie Gay Jr. was coming into this season with all this expectation, and I do believe in Willie Gay, but there's a question of whether he's an injury-prone player to this point of his career.
Yeah, legitimately.
Nick Bolton, young player, going to play this game, going to kind of be thrown to the wolves, honestly. So there's concern about that. Ben Neiman, we all know he sucks ass. So there's one linebacker this team's going to rely on in this game, and it's Anthony Hitchens. Anthony Hitchens had a great season last year, a great season, and led the team in tackles the year before. This is Anthony Hitchens, potentially and more than likely his last season with the Chiefs. So he's got to go out there and impress other teams with his performances. And this team is relying heavily at linebacker on one guy, Anthony Hitchens. I expect Anthony Hitchens to lead the team in tackles this season again. I think he's gonna have a double-digit tackle game in this game because he's gonna clog the lanes. He's gonna have a big tackle for loss in this game. Obviously, Chris Jones is gonna have a baller game. Obviously, I agree with you. Jaron Reed's gonna play really well because he's gonna be I think he's a force. Treshaun Wharton, people watch out for him. I wouldn't be shocked if this dude has 8 sacks this season. Treshaun Wharton is a baller, and people aren't talking about him enough. And I think he's gonna get his respect this season. The secondary, we love Lorjarius Sneed. We love Daniel Sorensen. We believe in Juan Thornhill. We know Tyrann Mathieu's an All-Pro. Anthony Hitchens needs to get his respect, and I think he's establishing that in this game against the Browns. That's a good question. What do you think, Trevor? Who's your guy?
Yeah, my guy is going to benefit from both of you guys' picks. My guy, and you said he's going to be thrown to the Wolves. I believe he is a Wolf. I think Nick Bolton is the guy. I think he's going to get a lot more playing time than we expect. I know there was a lot of Ben Neiman talk. This guy's a dog, dude. I think this guy was drafted to be a future player for this team, a core future guy in this linebacker core. I think he is going to get some play this week, and I think he's going to get a sack.
Oh, okay.
I think because of Jaron Reed, I think because of our other linebackers, and because of the worry of Chris Jones being on the edge and then Frank Clark coming off the edge, I think there's going to be some, and then the center might be banged up. I think there's going to be a chance where he blasted that up the middle, and not on Baker not being ready and this because we've seen it, man. He has that almost DJ-esque ability to just get through the middle and just blast through the O-line like in an instant.
And you know the Spags is going to be sent in the house.
And he's low sense of gravity. He's a shorter guy, but he's got that it that DJ had in my mind when I watch him.
He's a tackling machine.
He had so many, like, his ability to find the quarterback and hit the running back and when they're in I formation, hit the running back before in the backfield before he even gets a chance to make a play. We watched him in Missouri. You watch his highlights. He was so good at that. And it reminded me a lot of DJ because DJ was a master at that, getting into the backfield before the O-line even had a chance to react. He finds that hole and gets there. I think he's going to get a sack. That's my hot take. That's my prediction. I think he's going to play well, and I think we're going to be really, really impressed when we see him in week 1. That's my guy.
Oh, that's some good picks, man.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, I don't know about you guys. We've had a lot of fun, and each and every week we do our show with the Monday Mailbag. We give you guys the opportunity, the listeners, the viewing audience. You ask us any question in the world of sports, we give you our honest responses, and I hope that you guys were pleased by said responses. We haven't heard from our guy Stanley Simmons in a couple weeks. I'm a little sad about that, but hopefully as the season progresses, we miss you, buddy. But in the meantime, like I said, thank you guys for everybody that participated in the Monday Mailbag, and we hope to hear from all you guys each and every week throughout the football season especially. But we have one more order of business. Fellas, what's it called? Hold this L. What we do each and every week for each and every episode is we wrap up this bitch with a couple of L's in the world of sports, and whether they're friendly or unfriendly L's, we promise you who was ever holding these L's deserve these L's. Mr. Eddie Ortiz, yo, who is holding the L for you this week? Is it F1? Because I think you switched teams from what I hear. I heard you went, what's it called? Not Mercedes, but is it Mercedes? You switched teams, didn't you?
For next year.
You little turncoat.
Next year.
Maybe we should give the L to you.
Next year, not because of Lewis Hamilton, fucking despise
The
him, but because of George Russell, who should get a W, who I'm gonna give a W, might as well.
Okay.
George Russell deserved a W.
The 12-year-old?
Yeah, he's
He's been in it since he was a child.
I believe he's 21, 20, 21.
He looks like Zach Wilson. He's that young.
He's young. He's a tremendous driver. He drove for Mercedes last year for one race, which is ironically the race that Sergio Perez won. But he was destined to win it. If it wasn't for Mercedes fucking up his tires, I think he would have won that race easily. But yeah, he's a tremendous. He deserves this opportunity. He earned his right to drive for Mercedes. Next year, we will see what every team has to bring to the table because we officially have the cap. We officially have new regulations, so all the cars are pretty much going to be identical. There's not going to be a top dog or none of that because everything is going to be according. Like they have to spend money at certain places. And so it's gonna be very interesting what teams do next year, but yeah, George Russell deserves the W for that. And then my L is gonna go to Sergio Perez. Why is Sergio Perez gonna get my L? He is the second driver for Red Bull.
Traitor, you're a traitor, dude.
Yeah, and reason he's getting the L is he's going from bad to worse. He had a great start to the season. Being a Red Bull driver, I thought he started off pretty good, even winning a race and stuff like that. But after the summer break, after August break, he came back. We all thought he was gonna be better. We all thought he, worked on his mind and all that stuff. Make sure he came back stronger. He's only gotten worse, and today proved that he couldn't get past one of the slowest cars in the grid. That's Alfa Romeo. They have one of the slowest cars with Williams and the Haas team. I just don't know what's happening. Obviously, all the new upgrades and stuff like that are going to Max Verstappen, but even at that, it's like you have the fastest car on the grid, and you're struggling to even get 10th or 9th place. Come on, man.
Sounds like a driver problem.
When he drives an average vehicle or an average car, he outperforms that car. He brings out the best in that car. He puts that car in podiums when it shouldn't even be in podiums.
He put Vin Diesel in there.
Yeah, and now that he has a car that is can be put in podiums, he struggles to put it in podium. I think he's only put it in podiums twice this season.
Wow.
And Max Verstappen has managed to pretty much get it there at almost every race. Sergio Perez, you're going from bad to worse, and that only deserves one thing. So you have to do me a favor and
Hold this L. Trevor Twidwell, who's holding L for you this week?
I feel like we should start putting up a tally for how many guys we consistently have holding L's, because there's a lot of guys that are repeat offenders. This just happens to be another one of them. Legendary basketball player, Mr. Paul Pierce, Hall of Famer. If you guys didn't see his comments, recently he did an SI report. There was a interview they did on SI with Paul Pierce, just kind of regarding his abrupt exit with ESPN, and obviously ESPN has their own issues and their own cancers from the top down, but he was definitely one of those characters on ESPN that was kind of a laughing stock. If I can be just blunt about it. I mean, the guy couldn't hold a thought in his head a lot of times. He was making a take and then rescinding that take, and making a take and then rescinding that take, and then counteracting a take, and then then doubling down on one ignorant thing, and then acting like he never said that, and then just taking. It was just he was all over the place with his takes. LeBron's in the top 5. LeBron's not even top 15. It's like all these things. This is so hard to keep up with this guy. So he became a laughingstock, to be honest. If any sports fan knows, and I loved Paul Pierce as a player. I was a big fan of his. He was a KU guy, obviously. At heart, I love him. But as an analyst, as a human being that says words, it was just hard to listen to this guy, talk sports. With his 2 phones, 3 phones, however many he's got at a time. I just want to read you the quote that he did say, though, in the SI report, talking about why it wasn't a good fit and to why it led to his demise at ESPN. Obviously, there was the stripper video and the smoking pot thing. That's a guy living his life. Granted, you do have a profession, a job that you kind of have to, kind of keep some things, unexposed. So that was one reason, obviously, to why it was probably the most obvious one to most people why he got the boot. But this is why he was okay with it and why he was already done with them anyways, according to him. This is his quote. "I was done with them anyways," Paul Pierce said of ESPN. "It wasn't a great fit. There's a lot of stuff over there you can't say, and you have to talk about LeBron all the time." Why do you think you got to talk about LeBron all the time?
He's probably told.
Why does the NFL talk about Tom Brady all the time? Why does the NFL talk about Mahomes all the time? Why?
They're told to.
You think they're told to? Or is it because they're those are all the top biggest names in sports?
They're told to. I'm with Paul Pierce on that one.
So you don't think LeBron James' headlines are the biggest headlines in sports? You don't think Tom Brady's headlines are the big, and Mahomes' headlines? Turn on the NFL right now. I guarantee you that within 5 minutes you'll hear about Mahomes or Tom Brady.
Why do you think they talk about the Cowboys? Because they have such a humongous fan base and market.
It's all the market. It's all. This is what it is.
It's all marketing.
I'm with you, Paul Pierce. I'm with you.
LeBron.
I did Mike that up.
Yeah, you're helping my point, Eddie. I mean, they obviously had personal bitterness towards. So not only did LeBron end your career once, he's in your second career. So he's in your career twice.
And he didn't even have to do anything the second time.
Right. This is a personal beef. Dude, he's had a legitimate beef with LeBron his entire career leading into his analyst career.
Yeah.
He was constantly he would say LeBron was second. Go back to before he even got on ESPN. He was on The Breakfast Club. Him and Baron Davis. We ain't never seen anything like LeBron. This is literally when he was fresh out of it, when he was recently retired because LeBron ended his career because he couldn't find success after LeBron went to Miami. And his big 3 all in all failed from what they thought they were going to be because LeBron ended that. He was on The Breakfast Club talking about him and Baron Davis. He's Paul Pierce's words. He's like MJ and Magic put together. Paul Pierce said that, and now he's going here complaining because he lost his job.
That's the only time I've heard Paul Pierce say something that made sense.
Yeah, on The Breakfast Club before he got hired on ESPN, and now he wants to complain about the guy that he called MJ and Magic combined, that they're talking about him too much. No shit, you're talking about LeBron James too much.
Well, if you have a guy that's MJ
he's
and
the face
Magic,
of the NBA. Yeah. He's the face of the NBA. That's like someone getting fired and being salty about getting fired from NFL Network, talking about, we just had to talk about Mahomes too much. We had to talk about Tom Brady too much. That's literally the worst thing you could possibly say. I mean, Yes, you're going to be talking. I mean, turn on any sports network that talks about NBA. LeBron is going to be a topic. I mean, people have made their careers. Skip Bayless has made his career shitting on LeBron. I mean, he's got paid the most since LeBron's been in the league. The trajectory of not only Stephen A's, but Skip Bayless' career as well, hating on LeBron
And
from the
gagging on
other
Tim
side.
Tebow.
Of it. Yes, exactly, man. So for him to say that, for LeBron to end his career 2 times now. One time was directly. This time was indirectly. The fact that he comes out and that's his response. We got to talk about LeBron James too much. Mm-hmm. LeBron James has been the best player in the league for almost 2 decades.
And he said, eh.
A decade and a half, LeBron James has been the best player in the NBA. 10 plus years. That is more than a decade. I'm not going to have that argument with you. But the fact that he threw that in as to reason why he was done with ESPN. Dude, you be done with talking sports then. Because LeBron is always a topic. Because LeBron is always in the mix of what's going on in the NBA. LeBron is the face of the league. LeBron is the most successful player in the NBA. And you're having a problem with talking about him too much? That's a personal issue with Paul Pierce. Not a business issue. Because, if anything, talking about LeBron helps your ratings, helps your popularity, helps numbers across the... I mean, it is what it is. You talk about LeBron, you're going to get ratings. So, if anything, you're not liking the fact that LeBron is having success still at this point of his career, and Paul Pierce is sitting at a booth and got fired from that booth. It's pure salt, man. This is just pure salt. I'm going to start calling him Paul Salt because I don't understand, dude. The guy's hatred toward LeBron is just never ending. It's weird, too, because he'll glorify LeBron in one breath and then rescind it and take it back. And then now I was done with ESPN anyways because LeBron.
The sodium Celtic.
Straight soy sauce salt over here, man. It's ridiculous. So for that, Paul Pierce, do me a big favor, my guy, and
hold this L.
A W for me, though.
He laid the mic down again. So... Derek Jeter was pretty good at baseball, right?
Kind of.
Yeah, he was pretty good. 5-time World Series champ, several Gold Gloves, a couple batting titles, had a career batting average, I believe, of .310. Unbelievable player, right? Played in the biggest market in baseball, maybe the biggest market in the world. Never had a single controversy. Had a ton of beautiful women, girlfriends. Now has a beautiful wife with I think one daughter. I don't remember. I don't dive into personal lives, but the dude has been extremely successful. One thing we did know though is at the end of the day, Derek Jeter was a surefire Hall of Fame player and a first ballot Hall of Fame player, which he did make. And in all intents and purposes, that's a great thing. We should be handing him a W. But see, where the L falls in line with this one is the fact that there were 397 ballots submitted when it came to Hall of Fame votes. Any Major League Baseball writer or contributor that it does it for 10 years gets a vote. 397 were casted. 315 writers already went ahead and openly told everybody what their ballot was, and they were voting for Jeter. Should have been a consensus first ballot Hall of Fame election, correct, guys? Like, he's one of the greatest players known, one of the most globally recognized players, too,
one of the greatest Yankees ever, too.
And you guys know how hard it is to be a Major League Baseball player and be that famous because it's a sport where not a lot of guys, for some damn reason, are not stars in today's world.
He was the last single number with the Yankees, right?
Yes, and Derek Jeter has been retired, 7 seasons now, almost 8 years, and is still one of the most popular baseball players in the world. It's like a lot like Michael Jordan, where he's still one of the most recognizable basketball players, even though he's been retired for almost 20 years. Yet there was one voter that said that Derek Jeter should not make the Hall of Fame. So he got 99.7 votes. And here is where this all began. Babe Ruth, the first, big-time great spectacle in baseball, right, wasn't 100% voted in. It was 99%. And we all know how baseball goes. Once something is established, they usually stick with it because it's tradition. Not a single player in the history of baseball has ever been a consensus 100% voted in player. So because of tradition, that is, by the way, the stupidest of all traditions, and we can consider unwritten rules into the equation.
This is where baseball screws up.
They don't vote guys in 100%. So one guy had a vote there. It's almost like a prerequisite where he's like, well, all right, Donald, Clyde, and Cliff, One of you motherfuckers got to vote against Derek Jeter this year. Who's doing it?
I don't wanna.
We'll keep it. We'll keep it anonymous. None of y'all because it's still anonymous. Nobody knows who that writer is because his house would be burned down.
Yeah.
One guy had it. It almost feels like this was a setup because there's no way you could tell me that you have a vote. You've been doing this for 10 plus years, and most of these guys have been doing 20 plus years, and you saw the majority, if not all, of Derek Jeter's career, and you don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, it's so embarrassing. And honestly, I like that Jeter called him out. He said, "I want to thank all the voters except the one." I like that. It was hilarious, and I think it was very timely and appropriate. Yeah. But it just sucks that he had to actually acknowledge that in his acceptance speech at Canton. It really sucks that had to happen because he shouldn't have had to. Yeah. He should have been up there saying, "I was a consensus 100% voted in player."
Yeah, I mean, imagine putting in the work and having the resume that he has, being one of the most consistent, maybe the most consistent hitter in baseball history, and having to accept that somebody, because of tradition.
Guys,
that's crazy, bro.
At almost 40 years old, Derek Jeter batted .322.
Yeah,
that's insane.
At almost 40 years old. Like 38 years old, he was batting over .320. That's just absurd, man. I don't even need to break it down. It's just abysmal, and I'm sure all you guys will agree with me. If not, you can hold the L too. But in the meantime, the voter that voted against Derek Jeter making the Hall of Fame, do me a solid and hold this L. But I'm not done. I'm not done, fellas.
There's more.
I got one more for you motherfuckers. And I was thinking maybe one of you guys were going to get, because this was low-hanging fruit to me. So we all know the tired, you want to talk about tradition. There's this new tradition that's come about in sports, in particular with basketball, when it comes to, back in my era. So a guy I love, he's a fellow Chiefs fan, and he was an awesome basketball player, but is extremely misguided for some damn reason, was on a podcast this last week actually, talking about, and then the question was being asked whether, this guy would have made it in your era or he was soft. It was one or two. It was either he would be what he is or he'd be soft. They asked the question about Steph Curry. Rashid said soft. It just that's just unbelievable to think that the defenses back 15, 20 years ago would have been able to guard Steph Curry from 28 feet out, which is hilarious. He called him soft. Said Kevin Durant was soft. And then the inevitable question of LeBron James came up, and I'm actually going to play you the clip, so stay tuned, guys. This is the question.
A beast.
Here, let's skip to it.
LeBron James. In my era, he probably would have done good because with his physical stature, with him being a little bit bigger than a majority of the rest. So he probably would have held his own, but I don't think he would have been as successful as he is now. Like now is, man, you know what I mean? Like he doing it, young boy doing it. You know what I mean? So, but it was a whole different era back then, bro. So, beast or soft? I just told you, a beast. Then I think he would have held his own. I can't necessarily say he would have been a beast, but I think he would have held his own.
So. The question was, and hopefully I presented it well enough, this guy was asking Rashid if in his era these guys would have done what they're doing now. The problem with the question in itself is the fact that Rashid, especially when it comes to LeBron James, is Rasheed Wallace and LeBron played in the same era. LeBron James, for those that don't know, was drafted in 2003. Rasheed Wallace retired in 2012. That's a decade of basketball. Rasheed Wallace played 18 years. So 10 of his 18 years, which is 56% of his career, played against LeBron James. They played against each other 28 times. And LeBron James averaged 27, 7, and 6 in those games against Rasheed Wallace. And I don't know, do you guys remember that one time when LeBron was 22 years old with a squad that was worse than the Looney Tunes squad? Against the Pistons, who had been to 4 straight Eastern Conference Finals. LeBron scored 25 straight points, boomed on Rasheed Wallace, and had 48 total to beat them in that series.
The salt, man.
Rasheed was 29 years old in that series.
Not even 30.
What in the literal fuck was Rasheed Wallace talking about? Now, I know my dude Rasheed likes to toke. I'm thinking he was toking before that. And it sucks because during this interview, he's wearing a Chiefs hat. So it really sucks.
He's a Chiefs fan.
He's a Chiefs fan. Legit Chiefs fan. He goes to a lot of Chiefs games, actually. It really sucks that I have to do this because when you're talking about eras, and I hate that conversation to begin with because to me it's a cop-out when you say, well, my era, they'd have done... LeBron James would have dominated in any era, and in fact, he would have dominated even more if he'd have played in the 80s or 90s. So spare me that shit.
His size and speed.
But Rasheed was drafted in 98. It's not like he was playing 20 years before LeBron. Even if that's the case. They played stride for stride.
Right.
It's such a terrible thing to say. It makes no sense. And again, I was appalled by the Steph Curry comment he made. You guys can watch the whole podcast.
Yeah.
The whole
Calling
Steph Curry
soft.
comment that he would have been soft in that bullshit.
Dude.
That Kevin Durant wouldn't have dominated, but Larry Bird could? Give me a break.
John Starks.
Come on.
These guys were good then? You tell me Steph
Spud
Curry.
Webb played 13 years in the NBA. He was 5'6".
Right.
Come on,
John Stockton,
man.
John Stockton was one
Enough.
of the greatest point guards of that era. You tell me Steph Curry can be one of the greatest. Come on,
Enough.
bro.
Enough.
His handle, his speed alone.
Rasheed, I love you, man. And if I see you at a Chiefs game again, I'm going to shake your hand. Or you can shake my whole body because you're like 6'11" and I'm like 5'9". But do me a solid, my dude. For this particular reason, era or not, you got to get your timelines together, brother. Do me a solid and hold this L.
That'd be from me again.
Mute his fucking mic.
Yeah.
Man, we've had a solid 2 weeks of shows. Holy shit, man. 132 was our prediction show, which I know I'm going to nail all my predictions. 133 prepping you guys for this Chiefs-Browns game. I am so excited to be out there at Arrowhead for the first time in damn near 2 years, man. It's been a long time coming for all of us. It's going to be a raucous crowd for those of you that are watching from home. Still bring the noise, man. It's all about the spirit and energy that we bring to this team, and I hope you guys are ready for a jam-packed, exciting, high-octane, high-scoring, great defense performance from the Chiefs this season, because that's coming your way whether you like it or not. In the meantime, though, for Trevor Twidwell, for Mr. Yo-Yo-Yo Eddie Ortiz, for Clay Windler, our guy that puts all this stuff together for us, I am Lance Twidwell. The next time you hear my voice on this show, the next time you see us streaming live, we will be talking about a Chiefs W at Arrowhead Stadium, moving on to playing the Ravens in Baltimore with their own raucous crowd. I'm really excited about that one, but I don't want to get ahead of it because we have a big game ahead of us this Sunday. For that, for everybody else, I'm Lance Twidwell. Episode 133 of the Spoken Podcast is over. It's finished. It's finito. And until 134 rears its head around, we out of this bitch.